Hello, everyone again. Good morning. We apologize for the late starting. We're hoping to get more people come on, then we can start so everyone would be able to appreciate all the lovely speakers we have for you today. So thank you once again for coming on. My name is Nebogo Egbo, but everyone calls me Ogo, which is fine. I'm the founder of African Market System and Policy Advisory and the executive director of ECOWAS Small Business Coalition. And I am beyond excited to be your host today and to be part of the celebration of MSME Day. And um, my co-host will be joining soon. When she comes on, she would introduce herself. Her name is Nankolio, and she's a business advisor at the Namibian Investment Promotion and Development Board. But before we dive into the incredible program, let's go over a few house rules. One, please silence your mobile devices. We have a tight schedule, so would kindly ask our people to respect the time limits. Audience, we want to hear from you, my MSMEs, my traders, my cross-border traders. Please help us by your question should wait, and we have a dedicated question and answer session, which you would have the opportunity to ask all the questions you want to, and we'll be answering them for you. Today, we are not just here to talk about business. We are here to celebrate the resilience of everyone, of women, of our youth, of our entrepreneurs with disability, who are the true engine of our economy. Let's make this Congress unforgettable. So I would invite Dr. Doni Owo at this stage to please come on and give us an opening speech. Thank you very much. Hello, doctor. Hello, doctor. Can you hear?
Yes. Good morning and good morning, everyone. Before I start my speech, I'd like to ask that we all type or chat or say Happy World MSME Day with a thumb up to everyone in the room this morning. Happy World MSME Day. Happy World MSME Day. Thank you. I see that celebration, Damien. That's beautiful. I see that clap of hand, Afolabi, Dorcas. That's beautiful. Manuel, I see that. Beautiful. Amazing. Well done and well done, everyone. Okay, so I'd like to go into my opening and welcome speech. Before I go into the formal speech, I'd like to give a short background as to what brought about this Congress this morning. My name is Dr. Oladuniowo. I am the co-convener of the African MSME Congress for Energy and Extractives Industry. The initiative and the idea was batted just less than 2 weeks ago when during a session we had with the extractives and solid mineral industry of Nigeria, the Solid Mineral Ministry of Nigeria. We realized that there seems to be a lot of MSMEs in that space that they are doing a lot, but they don't have the structure, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the right training. And as a matter of fact, they are called artisanal miners, meaning they are really shop floor and they are really artisanal. And as a backdrop of that, we also realize the effects of the great work they are doing as the MSME in that space, and how what they are doing, how their mining activities and the output of their mining activities is being translated into energy. And it was so amazing. And then we decided that, oh, we need to ensure we commemorate the African MSME Day. Okay, the Women's School of Business and Leadership approached us that they want to commemorate the African MSME Day, and they were thinking of a focus industry. They had the option of healthcare, they had the option of education, they had the option of construction. And then being a member of the board, I told them, no, let's do energy. Energy cuts across virtually every part of Africa. And there seems to be a lot of energy poverty. So I advise that we should do the energy and extractive for this year. And that doesn't mean that future years they can pick other sectors, they can pick other industry. Nevertheless, the MSME celebration cuts across all sectors, all industry, and everyone is expected to participate. It's just that for this year, there is a small extra focus on energy and extractives. And to all the speakers here, I'd like to say a big thank you. We have speakers from across Africa. I know at one point our very erudite compare and chair would also reel out the details and names and countries of the different speakers. However, I would like us all to put in our chat box which country across Africa you are from. Thank you. I'll go into my formal speech now. Good morning, everyone, distinguished representatives from Africa, from across Africa, representatives from the African Union, representatives from ECOWAS, representatives from the different chambers of commerces across Africa, leaders of developmental finance institutions, private sector partners, regulators and local content practitioners and boards across Africa, members of the International Council for Small Business Global, energy and extractive small business owners, operators, services, IOCs, NOCs, and all the OCs, our very highly esteemed speakers, special guest speakers and panelists, MSME founders and owners across Africa, youths, women entrepreneurs, students, the gentlemen and women of the press and media, distinguished guests, colleagues from Africa and the diaspora, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you with a very full heart and huge excitement to the maiden edition of the United Nations International MSME Day 2026, focused on the African MSME Congress for Energy and Extractive Industry. Today, we are all gathered here, convened on the United Nations International MSME Day, a global reminder that micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises are the engine of job creation, they are the engine of innovation, they are the engine of economic sovereignty. We are here for one reason: to build African MSME ownership across all the industries and sectors, with a major focus on the energy and extractives industry. For so long, the narrative has been energy and extractive industries are for the multi-billion-dollar miners and international organizations called IOCs. It is also known that local content is only for big contractors. Today, we end that myth. Today, we are gathered to end that narrative. Africa, our dear motherland, owns the minerals and molecules of the next decade, of the next century: the lithium, the copper, the cobalt, the uranium, the gypsum, the oil, the gas, the solar, and so many more. The diamond, the gold, the amethyst, the emerald. Africa has it all. But resources without MSME is just exports. Resources with MSME is industrialization, is growth. So this Congress today exists or is convened to answer three questions. Where can MSME enter the industry from? We are talking about pit to plug, mining to energy, extractives to energy. We're talking about exploration to production, to processing, to storage, to distribution, and to usage. And we are also talking about positioning MSME organization across the entire value chain at whatever level. There are over 20,000 MSME business lines across the energy and extractive value chain. And a lot of these businesses can start with little or no money for as low as $5,000 or even $1,000. Who must own it? Africans. You and I. Africans, either citizens of Africa or you reside in Africa, we must own it. Founders, owners, youth, women, and even the host communities where all these natural resources reside. Services companies that meet the standard and the scale. And how do we enable it? Through development, human-centered entrepreneurship, which is the theme, which is part of the theme for this year's United Nations Global MSME Day, which focuses on future generation of energy and extractives MSME with human-centered entrepreneurship, funding in a AI motivated economy. The framework for this year's focus, it is very, very important for me to highlight that the United Nations MSME Day, which is celebrated and commemorated on the 27th June of every year, was actually advocated for by an organization called the International Council for Small Business, based in the United States, but they have branches across the world. And the framework focuses on empathy, business enablement, and business empowerment for micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. And this focuses on ring-fencing this to the energy and extractive industry. It focuses on us taking time to listen to that MSME in Accra, Ghana, that young founder in Lusaka. Want to understand what blocks your business, what blocks your takeoff, what is your challenge around access to finance, what are the technical standards you have put in place, what are the structures your organization have, are your tenders bankable? And talking about enablement, we want to leverage this platform to remove those barriers. Today, we must meet DFIs that can facilitate funding for our MSMEs across Africa. Local content boards to set aside registries, operators with vendor program, tech builders, AI tools for low bandwidth Africa. I see a number of people are having to drop and come in, or the network threw them out and coming back several times into the Congress. And the last bit, the empowerment, speaks to a playbook that will help the nano organization or the nano company to move to a micro, the micro to move to small, and the small to move to medium, and the medium to join the league of large enterprise. We want our SMEs to be able to win contracts, get jobs, and be able to move to their next level. Today, history is being made because it is the maiden edition of this Congress. The energy transition is accelerating with or without us, whether we like it or not. The question is, will African MSMEs and local content organization be able to fit into the pack? Will the local content business be ready to be suppliers, be ready to be processors, be ready to be owners? Or we just want to remain subcontractors and and be collecting the side job? I would like to say to you, we will be owners, we will be principals. It is doable, it can happen. We move from zero to hero and shiro. MSME with direct contracts, MSME will take equity in big and large projects across Africa. We move from being a CSR focus to local content enterprises. And what are the proof we have? We have a number of case studies that we'll be sharing here. We'll be listening to our very erudite speakers taken from across Africa and indeed even the world. We have representation from the African Union, the Commissioner for Energy, Infrastructure and Digitalization. We have the president of ICSB himself from America. And we have two surprise speakers that will also be joining us. The chairman, the executive chairman of Africa Energy Chamber, and the chief executive officer of the Steron Mining and Steron Energy Organization. This is not theory. We are here to cause a transformation. We are here to move Africa forward. What is the clarion call? So here is my charge for us, to all of us, in the next 2.5 hours. To MSMEs and local content organizations and practitioners here, please listen attentively to and be present in the conference, because your next contract may depend on this. Map your capability to the pit to plug chain we will be sharing. To the DFIs and private sectors here, please do not just speak. Show us the facility, show us the fund, show us the finance, tell us the criteria, and tell us how to be positioned to get the funds. Show us the PO finance, show us the LPO discounting, show us the performance bonds we need to have. Show us the way. To the regulators and local content specialists here, please tell us the entry points, tell us the registries, tell us the standards. Hear from us and be ready to help us put some of our positions into policies. Tell us on how to be compliant. Tell us how to be bankable. To operators and major organizations here, open your vendor books to us. We are ready to comply. Be ready to mentor us. We are ready to learn. And to everyone here, irrespective of the value chain you represent, we are built. It is very important to say that we are all together on this journey, building an army of African small, medium, micro, small, and medium organization, even not just across the energy and extractive value chain, but across all sectors and across all industry. In closing, distinguished guests, you are not attending a webinar today. You are entering a marketplace, a movement, a One Africa, MSMEs, local content development, energy and extractive industry, with humanization at the center, funding at the core, and AI as a driver. So on behalf of my co-conveners, on behalf of the Women's School of Business and Leadership, on behalf of the background team, Black Gold Energy Authorities team, on behalf of the United Nations, on behalf of the International Council for Small Businesses, on behalf of all the erudite special guest speakers here today, I thank you for showing up. It is my honor to invite all of you to still please send the joining link to your entire network, because history is being made today. Thank you, everyone, and welcome once again to the maiden edition of the African MSME Congress 2026. I remain yours, Dr. Oladuni Owo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your amazing speech. And like you said, today is a great day for all of us. Today is the day we celebrate the UN MSME Day, and to align with the International Council for Small Businesses. And we should focus on why we're here. We're here to operationalize the three E's, like you said: empathy for our founders, enablement through skills and funding, and empowerment to trust to lead them. And so for our very first speaker, it will be your why. Why are you here? Acknowledge the partners. So the great idea, we need great backing. We are deeply grateful to our sponsors. I now invite Neil Hellings to the stage to tell us, to give us a goodwill message. And the floor is yours, Neil, and tell us how you can support us. Neil?
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are in the world. I know that the panel is spread far and wide. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to step in and cover this piece. I don't come from an extractive background, so I look at this from possibly a different point of view. I've spent 20 so years now in Africa, where the focus in business is trying to improve the livelihoods to self-sustainability, trying to encourage the local host community to step forward, create entrepreneurial units to support that business, rather than, as often was the case, that company looking to buy in goods and services from hundreds of miles away, and including from international companies, because that's how it always been done. And possibly at the early stages of the various industrial sectors that I've worked in, it was the only option. But that is not true today. Today, we have a continent full of talent. We have a continent full of latent potential. But historical norms and convention have now served to imprison us in terms of being able to unlock that capital investment that is already there in terms of proximity, knowledge of the local environment, a belief in the district, the region, the national identity, that sense of patriotism and nationalism, which can't ever be delivered from those from outside. They just don't have that level of ownership. When we look at the extraction industry, I come predominantly from an agricultural background, so I will give one statistic. Germany makes 48 times more revenue from exporting coffee than Kenya, because all the value addition is done outside of the regions which are producing either the minerals or the agricultural produce. And when we look at minerals, obviously the value chain is even greater in terms of the revenues that can be produced if we have even only partial refinement of what we are extracting from the earth. And if I look across the South Atlantic to some of the countries in South America and the regulatory frameworks that they have put around the policies for mandatory value addition, things like lithium in Bolivia and so on, that we have to be able to come forward with a similar legislative framework here in the African continent, where we secure not just the money, but the opportunities for employment, for the creation of entrepreneurs, for the generation of innovation, and the sustainment of an industry over the long term for the benefit of the host nation and its peoples. The introductory speech from the doctor covered the three E's. In our panel session that I'm on, I will talk about another three P's in addition to people, planet, and profit. But those three E's are the three legs of a stool that will support the transition towards opening up an industrial sector with huge economic potential for the continent, and it will be done by the people of the continent and not, as historically been, external capital. So welcome to today's conference. We will try to get back on our schedule. I know many of you may have other commitments to be adhered to later in the day. But welcome. Please participate fully in the questioning sessions. We're here to learn from you as much as we hope you may learn some of the things from us. So welcome everybody, and I look forward to the interaction of the sessions for the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you for your time, and thank you for a brilliant welcome note. Dr. Doyin, is there, who else, the other speakers? So while we wait for our other speakers, I would like to say we are very privileged to have different thought leaders come on board, different CEOs, different avenues, different sectors in the SME and in the energy sector. And while we wait for our speakers to come on board, I also want to reiterate what we are here for those who are just coming on. While Neil was speaking, some came to say that it wasn't too clear. So I hope it's clearer now for you to hear. Hello? Can everyone
Sorry,
hear?
I didn't realize that
Yes,
you were breaking.
there's some static. Yes. Yes. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you. So remember, we are celebrating the UN MSME Day. As Dr. Doni has said, we have brilliant speakers coming on, and we have 3 E's that we are focused on today. Empathy for our founders, enablement through skills and funding, and empowerment to trust them to lead. So these are the 3 E's that we are all focused today on, and that's part of what our celebration theme is. And Dr. Oni spoke brilliantly. We are waiting for the next speaker to come on. Dr. Doni, or can we go straight into the panel session?
Okay, I just got a confirmation or information from our keynote speaker. That's the Commissioner for Energy and Infrastructure, the AU. She might be joining us a bit late. And
Okay.
also the president of ICSB, because he is in the US, he might also be joining us later. So we can actually go straight into the panel session. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so our first panel session will be focused on the human-centered entrepreneurship. That is our why. This panel is about demystification and human dignity. You must state clearly, this is to our panel, so we can hear you clearly. Now, when we arrive at the heart of our Congress, our first one, it's basically to focus on let's kill the myth right now. The energy and extractive sector is not exclusively reserved for billion-dollar firms, like Dr. Doni said earlier in her welcome speech. From HSSE, audit and waste management to drone survey and environmental monitoring, there are over 20 services line where MSMEs can enter with less than $50,000, like Doctor said. We must move our host communities from being project affected to project ownership. It means our value chain has to increase, not just from extraction and taking it away, but to improve our value chain in whatever we extract from the ground. So this panel will be operationalized with the ISCB's call for empathy, but because extractive work is high risk, male dominated and burnt out prone, we are here to protect the founders, not just the enterprise. And allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists. Our moderator would be Judith. Is she around, Doctor? She's a board member, Black Star Group, Ghana. Our first panel will be Amit Shinha, the CEO, Sila Africa Ethiopia, PLC Ethiopia. Our second panelist will be Rita Nabukereza. It's from Trade and Investment Advisor, British High Commission from the Uganda. Our third panelist will be our own Neil, who is present here. He's the MD East Africa, EcoSafi, Kenya. I don't know, is Judith around to lead the panel? So let's humanize our hustle and hear from our very, very brilliant panelists. Judith, is she on?
Neil will be taking a session as a moderator. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, Neil. Thank you.
I'd like to take this from an angle of familiarity. We have all heard in meetings and conferences and in our own strategies the 3 Ps of people, planet, and profit. What I want us to do in this session, in theme of the human-centered entrepreneurship, is to introduce another 3 Ps. And those 3 Ps are proportionality. They are the potential. And most importantly, they are participation. And what do I mean by those 3 things? Firstly, proportionality. As has been mentioned, we don't have to be large multinational institutions in order to participate in the way that we have done historically. The proportionality of our industry would mean that there are contracts for a few $1,000s, and not every contract is for multi-million. And therefore, if we look it through the lens of proportionality, what opportunities are there for host nation participation and the development, even the creation of entrepreneurs to participate in the delivery of the whole environment, the whole ecosystem of economic support and activity that drives the extractive industries. In terms of the potential, why is it that we have to have tenders that come out that always require 10 years of experience? At what point are we willing as an industry to recognize the potential of local talent that has yet to be given the opportunity to arrive with 1 year of history? So there has to be some way of making sure we address the fact that potential doesn't come at a 10-year birth point. It starts at 0. And then the final one is participation. How do we make sure that our educational system, our TVET colleges are enabling the host nation to ensure that it is delivering through the educational system, particularly at tertiary and technical training, to enable as many people to participate as is possible, not just as employees, but also as entrepreneurs. So how do we also teach someone who is going to be an engineer basic business sense, as an example? So that's how I'd like to frame the discussion that we're going to have. If I can introduce myself very quickly, my name is Neil Hellings. I've lived in Kenya now for 14 years, but prior to that, I've lived in other parts of East and West Africa. I'm a naturalized Kenyan now. We operate a business which takes agricultural wastes and turns it into a biomass fuel. We supply that fuel to industrial customers for boiling and heating, but fundamentally we make that fuel to put into a very advanced gasification stove, which we provide to people to use without them having to purchase, because the purchase price would be too high and beyond the reach of most people who we are targeting, which is those who cook on a daily basis using charcoal and wood. So we are obviously a climate action focused company trying to stop the levels and rates of deforestation across the continent. We currently operate in Kenya, Uganda, and we recently set up in Zambia, and we're then looking to add 2 or 3 target countries each year out to 2030. So that's me. If I can introduce my colleague on the panel, Uganda, close to my own heart, having lived and worked there a few years. If I could introduce Rita and Nabukira, who is an advisor to the UK government, to the High Commission in Kampala with regard to trade and investment. Rita, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. I hope everyone can hear me. Neil, your network, I think it must be your network is not so good. Your voice keeps breaking. Yeah, but over to me. Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know if it's afternoon on other people's side. In Uganda, it's afternoon already. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. And it's really a privilege to join such an important conversation as we celebrate the UN MSME Day and reflect on the role that African SMEs really play in shaping the future of our energy and extractive sectors. As Neil said, my name is Rita Nabukera, and I serve as a trade advisor at the British High Commission here in Uganda, Kampala. And my work focuses on strengthening trade and investment partnerships between the UK and Uganda, supporting UK companies looking to invest and do business in Uganda, while as well helping Ugandan businesses identify opportunities to grow and attract investment, access international markets, and build strategic partnerships. A significant part of my role involves working closely with government institutions, the private sector, business associations, development partners, and entrepreneurs to identify commercial opportunities, also address market access barriers, and create enabling environment where businesses, particularly the MSMEs, can thrive. I've also had the privilege of engaging across sectors, including energy, infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, professional services, healthcare, and the like. And this has given me a front row seat to both the immense potential and the very real challenges that African businesses face. One thing I've learned is that SMEs are not simply beneficiaries of economic growth, they are the drivers of it. And because they create jobs, innovate, strengthen local supply chains, and connect communities to opportunities. And yet many still struggle to access finance, meet international standards, navigate regulations, and secure contracts within major industries like the energy and extractives. And that's why I'm really particularly excited about today's discussion. Because too often we think about the energy and extractive sector only through the lenses of the large multinational companies or billion-dollar investments. But the reality is that for every major project, it relies on a vibrant ecosystem of local businesses, from engineering support and environment monitoring to logistics, catering, digital services, waste management, renewable energy solutions, and so many others. So the question isn't whether MSMEs have a role to play. It's how we ensure that they're equipped to seize such opportunities. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and I look forward to having a great conversation. Thank you.
So Rita, go back to my 3 Ps. How do we make sure more people are able to participate in general? The way in which industry and the educational institutions, the technical training colleges, how can we better prepare a population to enable them to seize those commercial opportunities?
So to better prepare the population for these seizing commercial opportunities, I think one would look at aligning education with the industry needs, whereby technical training colleges and universities should update their curriculum to reflect the actual skills demanded by sectors like the energy and extractives, through including practical technical skills, digital literacy, and ESG awareness. The other could be strengthening vocational and technical training, where we expand access to hands-on vocational training programs focused on energy infrastructure, renewable energy technologies, oil and gas services, and extractive support functions. We could also look at promoting mentorship and knowledge transfer through facilitating these mentorship programs, linking experienced industrial professionals with the MSMEs and youths to transfer the practical knowledge and business skills. Also, we could encourage that collaboration between government agencies and private sector companies and education institutions, basically to create internships and apprenticeships and that on-job training opportunities for these MSMEs. We could also look at, yes,
sorry,
please.
is that something that the likes of the international aid agencies, obviously your presence at the High Commission, is that a discussion that is taking place already where we're looking at a significant investment on a totally speculative basis at this stage? We don't know what opportunities will come by the time those people have finished their education, particularly if we're looking at starting to develop a different type of educational flow between 11 and 16. We don't know what the employment market would look like by the time they were to enter the labour pool. So it's not easy for commercial business to take that level of investment. It needs to be a state investment. So are the donor partners like the UK, are they actively looking at how they can prepare the continent for the challenges and opportunities ahead?
Yes, thank you for that, Neil. Yes, definitely. International aid agencies and donor partners, in this case, the UK government, are increasingly recognizing this critical need to invest in preparing the Africa workforce for the evolving energy and extractive sector. However, this preparation requires definitely a long-term strategy approach. Given that the future job market is uncertain, especially for young generations entering education now. So investments must be flexible and forward-looking. And yes, just to note, from the development angle, so much on the commercial, but from the development angle, yes, we have some programs where, especially in the education and healthcare for now, where funds are set aside to bring about capacity building and also collaborate with some organizations in the UK to bring in expertise for facility for training to equip these MSMEs with specific required skills and knowledge, if I could put it that way. And we've had collaborations with educational institutions like Makerere University and some other organizations that deal with SMEs in the various sectors to kind of try and identify where the gaps are and see how we can be able to support this. And it's really mainly through skills training and capacity building.
And do we have an idea and obviously your expertise is Uganda, but I would imagine that there will be a commonality across the continent of those who enter into those types of technical training schemes, the level of employment opportunities that we have, or at the moment we don't have that level of data to support the investments that we need to make.
I hope I got you correctly.
I'll give an example, Rita. I ran the largest fish farm in Uganda for a few years, and I worked very closely with Mekagera University. But we were only able, at the very outset, we could only take 10 students out of 150, as an example. And the majority of the remaining 140 could not get placements, they couldn't get internships, they couldn't get offers of employment, because at that stage there was a mismatch between the volume of training and education being done compared to the opportunity. How do we rationalize that piece?
So in that case, I think we could consider setting up programs and collaborating with particular organizations, because there are organizations that offer this kind of services. We could consider that, partnering with such organizations to kind of deliver on this, to deliver on the service, given that, well, as you mentioned, not so many could be able, may not have enough room to accommodate the numbers that are out there. So if we come up and with particular programs and partner with certain academias that are already in the industry, I believe now, for example, like American University and so many other tertiary institutions that are around the country, because many have come up of late. I believe we could come up with programs that can actually be able to partake the big numbers that may not be accommodated in the currently available seats.
I agree with that. We have to make sure that we manage expectation from those who come into the projects. So we've created a labour pool with huge potential. We can see that they've got the ability to participate. But how do we address that potential? How do we convince those who at the moment are predominantly coming in from the international mining communities, the extraction industries? How do we convince them that that talent pool has got the potential to fulfill the roles that they require? How do we convince them to actually start to utilize the talent that we have, that potential, both in country and also to develop it by giving it exposure to other projects that may be not necessarily even within Africa, perhaps on a global scale, so that we have our own African quality of engineers and entrepreneurs coming all the way up through? How do we encourage that to take place? Is that the function of the state to mandate that? Is it the challenge of organizations such as the women's group here to try and change the mindset that we don't have to have constantly imported talent in order to run our businesses here?
So yes, as you've stated, one is definitely it's the government, in this case our state, to kind of try to empower this. And I think even as the UK government and probably other international agencies, we can try to push this message with government to kind of reinforce this. And I think one of the things that government of Uganda has actually been able to do when it comes to things like employment, especially for foreigners setting up here in Uganda, there's one thing that they really look at, the local content, where that includes making sure that you employ a certain number of Ugandans in your organization, not just bringing in expatriates from abroad. They also ensure that as now, for example, some of the projects that I've worked on, we have to ensure there's capacity building. We make sure people are trained to partake on the work, so that we actually have to bring in very few expatriates to do the work. And actually, even when they do come in, they have to train, and because at some point they have to leave and let the natives take over most of the work. So it is, I think, mainly the role of the state, but also in collaboration with other agencies that have, I would say, influence to kind of push the message out there to the responsible parties and entities to reinforce participation of the natives so that they're given room and opportunities to exploit or whatever opportunities are there.
Okay. So I'm, as I say, as it happens just in Uganda, I did exactly the same thing where we set up a 2 and a 3 year knowledge transfer program. So that it was one work permit and out basically his local knowledge was being able to be brought to bear. Going on to the final one, which is proportionality. So if I can give an insight to what we do in Uganda, in Kenya, and now in Zambia, we as a business want to address the issues of deforestation. We want to reduce and ideally eliminate, but reduce the amount of deforestation that occurs to provide the daily necessity of cooking. We do that in a model where we will utilize where we can. It's not always exclusively this, but we would target women who are not economically active, and we provide them with half a dozen of a very advanced gasification stove. It's all computerized, IoT'd, and so on. So it's beyond the price that the typical charcoal user would be able to buy. And they get a commission every time they introduce a customer. And they get a commission every time that customer buys fuel from them. Okay. And we choose deliberately women who are not economically active. And we provide those pellets and those stoves without them having to have outlay. So there's a high degree of trust, which makes it slightly risk high in the profile of assessments. But it means in a typical month that that dealer or super dealer, as we call it, will have an income of anywhere between $100 and $200 without any outlay. And we train them, and we also train them on how to make sure they can do stock control and how they manage their money. And it's all through Momo Pay, so it's all electronic. With the aim that by 2030, we will have created 25,000 women who we have taken from either economic dependency upon someone else, but more importantly, we then encourage them to look at the other things that they can supply to those customers. And we've got arrangements where other goods and commodities can also be provided to them, so that they go from being economically dependent upon someone else to being fully economically dependent. They're never going to be millionaires, and there's always the issue about whether tax thresholds come in and how do we avoid suddenly somebody becoming taxed when they didn't want to become part of the formal sector. But that's at the micro level, okay? And then we have the extractive industries who come forward and want bonds of $1 million and even ordered just to participate in a tender. How do we try to bridge that gap so that more and more of the host nation, particularly the host community in and around activity, is able to participate? What is it that we have to say to the companies that put out these tenders and these contracts that are so difficult for local people to be able to even consider participating? How do we address that?
Okay, please, if you are not speaking, kindly mute. Thank you.
Yes, Doctor, should I go ahead and respond?
Yes, please go ahead.
So I think one of the things we would look at policy and regulatory reforms, whereby we would advocate for policies that lower or scale the tender bond requirements and financial guarantees especially for MSMEs, because as you mentioned, most of them are usually for the big companies. That's really like their target. So I think we would look at advocating for policies that would lower that scale tender bond requirements, and especially those from the host communities. Then we'd also look at okay, I already mentioned providing targeted training and mentorship programs to help the SMEs understand the tender processes, the compliance requirements, because most of them are actually are not aware of what is required, and they might have the misconception of what the whole tendering process is like, and yet it's something we think they can work to be a part of. Then I think we'd also look at facilitating access to tailored financial products such as guarantees, pooled bonds, and credit facilities that are usually supported by government, DFIs, or other private sector partners to really help these MSMEs meet tender requirements without the prohibitive risk. I think now looking at the current situation of AI, I think we could also leverage AI-driven tools to increase visibility and credibility for local SMEs, really helping companies identifying these reliable vendors and reducing the perceived risks associated with local suppliers. Then I think we'd also think about promoting local content and ownership models, where we shift from just mere quotas to models that enable host community SMEs to own equity or participate meaningfully in value addition and moving beyond labor or subcontracting roles. Then also we could look at encouraging companies to integrate ESG criteria, because for most of these MSMEs, you realize it's just something that is just on paper, or they may not even be aware of, and yet it's really a critical issue for most of the tenders. And also look at gender youth inclusion as part of the tender evaluation, really recognizing the broader value of supporting local MSMEs. Then I think it would also be really important to showcase successful.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
So I was going to just touch on that. How do we address that gender balance? I mean, I work in a company where I'm the endangered species. We deliberately recruit women. We're a cooking, clean cooking business. The majority of cooking is done by women. The people who are at home and able to become dealers traditionally are women. So we have a very strong disproportion the other way compared to what would normally be. So the extractive is very, very much male dominated. My own day-to-day operation, we're 25 or so % of the business. How do we also address that issue of getting equal parity for women to participate as entrepreneurs? Because there is a pushback. I think the discussion is touched on that it is a male dominated historically, for all sorts of reasons which we can look back through history and understand. It was pioneering, it was in inhospitable areas and so on. But how do we open up the market so that women get a fair crack of being able to compete on a level playing field based upon their submission, not their gender?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I hope I was able to get everything. So I think one of the things that we could consider or advocate for is an embedded gender inclusion in the policy and tender frameworks, where we make gender inclusion like a mandatory and not something that is just on the side, but mandatory and measurable criteria in tender evaluations and local content policies. They shouldn't just be like a box to tick. Then the other would look at, I think we could consider providing targeted education and training, mentorship to women entrepreneurs. This is something that already some organizations are doing, but I think it's still on a low scale here in Uganda. So I think it's something that the state could probably look at. And really to build their technical skills, business acumen, and confidence. Then I think would also think of facilitating women's access to capital, license, and equity ownership opportunities so that they can move just beyond these subcontracting roles to becoming owners and leaders in the value chain. And also encourage definitely companies and SMEs to integrate the ESG criteria that includes gender equality as a core business value and not just a social corporate responsibility. The other that I think I could think of is to really focus on the founder, the worker, and the community, recognizing those unique challenges women face and designing interventions that can empower them holistically, including safety, dignity, and social inclusion. Then I think we could also establish forums and advisory groups or peer networks through most of these NGOs, the non-government organizations that mainly have such programs to help connect women entrepreneurs with financiers, regulators, and industry players that could increase their visibility, credibility, and also access to opportunities.
My final point before we open up to questions. One thing that I've noticed in my own experiences here is in their efforts, almost desperation sometimes, for small businesses to secure contracts and win business. There's a tendency that the first thing they can dispense with is HSSE. That's seen as a sort of an add-on that big companies do for their employees, but small companies don't need to do it because they're never going to win any business if they have that type of overhead. How do we address that, particularly when it involves the youth, women, other disadvantaged groups, disabled groups, where their opportunities for gainful employment mean that they accept that their employer is not going to provide that because they're just desperate for work? You're on mute, Rita.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, there's some bits of noise in the background. That's why I keep muting. So I think we could reframe the HSC as a business enabler. Just really emphasize that strong health, safety, and security practices, they increase the MSME's credibility, and just kind of really put it out there as a message to the MSMEs to help improve their chances of winning these contracts. And then I think we can also integrate the HSCs into contract requirements, where we advocate for regulators and these large companies to make sure that there's the HSS compliance is a mandatory criteria in procurement and tender processes. Then also provide targeted education and capacity building. Develop, I think, for most of these programs that are already in place, or we can even come up with more programs to develop tailored programs that are targeting women, the youth, and the disadvantaged SMEs to build their technical skills and better understand these HSSC benefits, so that there's compliance and they're more accessible and there's less intimidation for most of them. The other that I could think of would be maybe facilitate financing mechanisms or grants, especially aimed at helping these SMEs invest in the necessary HSSC infrastructure and systems. Then lastly, I think I could highlight, I think it will be crucial to highlight long-term benefits of it, basically communicating to companies with strong HSSE practices to attract better partnerships, really that they attract better partnerships and reduce liability risks, and therefore enhancing workforce morale, which ultimately leads to business growth and resilience.
Okay, as we wind up, I'll let you go first, and then I'll do mine. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing overnight, what would you do to help entrepreneurs in the small and medium enterprise category? What do you think would be the biggest unlock any one thing could achieve? Put you on the spot.
Well, I think I'll create a comprehensive ecosystem that integrates technical support, mentorship, market access, and financing in a very seamless but accessible way. This ecosystem, I believe, will provide that tailored capacity building programs focused on the technical skills and compliance. Then it would also have like embedded mandatory compliance criteria into procurement and tender processes. It would also be able to tackle how to facilitate access to financing mechanisms and grants, especially that are designed to help the MSMEs invest in the necessary systems. And also connect these, the program would support and find out connecting the MSMEs with investors, legal advisors, technical experts, and markets through coordinated stakeholder networks. Then also, I think this would also be able to highlight and communicate the long-term business benefits of strong compliance and operational standards. So for me, I think it would be to just create that comprehensive ecosystem that integrates all these things.
Okay, mine is a little bit unrealistic, I guess, but this is what I'm saying. If we had a magic wand, I would actually put in some form of legislative framework with regard to the provision of local goods and services in any one contract, and in return offer some form of tax incentive to that company in return for the fact that actually that economic activity is being replaced within the host community anyway. And I think that would probably be the biggest single cultural push to make sure that local talent is given opportunity, and it would then filter into the ecosystem that you've just described, whereby we do have a framework that is feeding the beast, because suddenly there is that opportunity for local content to come forward and share in the economic prosperity and benefits of the extractive industry. I want to thank you very much. You've been fantastic, Lisa. What I'd like to do now is open up if there's any questions.
Hi, yeah, I've got a question. Charlie Knight here, for Neil, actually. So just, it's a bit of a practical question. Going back to the project you were talking about, where you've got this sort of great network of community members, particularly women who you are finding to to improve their economic kind of opportunities. And yeah, I worked on something kind of similar in Malawi a while ago, a fuel efficient cook stove project, and we had this network of community volunteers. And once you have that network, as you say, it's a great opportunity to expand into other things, to expand their income, to improve their livelihoods in other ways. So I was just interested to hear your thoughts on when you said that you were hoping to add other services or technology or opportunities using that network, what types of things or activities or other maybe business ideas you're hoping to add to that project through the existing network that you've already got throughout the communities that you're working with?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I'll take this to the most extreme in terms of value, but to use it as how it can. So we've done an arrangement with the largest matchmaking company in East Africa, so that actually in addition to selling the pellets and the fire starter, they can actually now sell matches as well. So when they order their pellets and the fuel starter, they can actually now order a box or a packet of matches that they can then sell on. It's not going to make them millionaires clearly, but each way we can. Then the next one is pots and pans. So we're looking at how do we then open up. We've got some preliminary discussions with two of what I would call the staple providers of food sources here. One is a cooking oil company, where we will also look to make them able to sell cooking oil. And the challenge always is our business doesn't require them to have an outlay of cash. Not most businesses are not quite so trusting, but once they have got 5 or 6 months of economic activity behind them, they're actually able to start to accumulate enough to be able to buy one box of 5 litres of cooking oil or whatever it may be and start that process. So they end up becoming a general store rather than just a fuel store for us.
Thank you. I would want to jump in to say if there's no more question, I'd like to say a massive, well-deserved round of applause for our phenomenal first panel speakers, Rita and Neil. Thank you for bringing such depth, honesty, and practical wisdom to this conversation on human-centered entrepreneurship. First, demystification is our first job. We heard clearly that energy and extractive sector is not reserved for billion-dollar firm only. From HSSE audit to environmental monitoring, there are over 20 entry points for MSME with less than 50,000 US dollars. The myth is broken, at least it's broken today. Second, the ESG and the HSSE are not charity, they are profits. Our panelists reminded us that safety and environmental compliance are not just paperwork or CSR. They are the license to operate. And MSMEs can build thriving businesses around compliance, remediation, and gender inclusion. So women, we can do it. Third, our host community must move from affected to ownership. It means we can't be laborers. We should be owners. We cannot keep extracting resources and leaving communities as bystanders. We have to improve our value chain. The conversation is shifting from community development agreements to community equity agreements, where local women, youths, and people living with disability actually own a stake in the value chain. So these insights are not just for talks. They will feed directly into our 7-point African Union communique after this event. So please, with this, I would like to say thank you again. Please join me to say thank you to Neil and Rita. Thank you so much. And with that, we would move on to our second panel session. And this session, we say Africans' median age is 19. Yet our policies and local content laws are often written for 50-year-old CSOs. This panel asks a critical question. How does a 28-year-old founder actually own value in Africa's energy and extractive future? We must shift youth from being laborers and contractors to becoming owners, and processors of our minerals and energy resources. We are talking about gas to power kits, battery assembly, geotech, CNG conversion, owned by host community MSMEs. Our panelists are ready to reframe this ownership model. So please join me in welcoming our moderator, who is Manuel. Our first panel is Demi Wingal, founder and senior consultant, D&A consulting firm in Senegal. Our second panelist is Jessica, national content specialist from Uganda. Thank you. Manuel, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's a privilege to moderate this important discussion on the future of energy, future generation of energy and extractives, micro, small, and medium enterprises under a broader Congress theme, which is the human-centered entrepreneurship and the role of funding an AI-driven economy. Across Africa, MSMEs are the engine of economic growth, innovation, job creation, and local content development. In the energy and extractive sector, they are increasingly becoming strategic partners in delivering goods, services, technology, and specialized expertise. However, the business environment is changing rapidly. Artificial intelligence, automation, digitalization, sustainability requirements, and evolving local content expectations are transforming how companies operate and compete. So the micro, small, and medium enterprises that will succeed in future are likely to be those with the largest resources, but rather those that are the most adaptable, innovative, and capable of leveraging technology while maintaining a strong human-centered approach to entrepreneurship. As someone involved in teaching, research, and professional development through the Angolan Geophysical Association, I firmly believe that the future competitiveness of African MSMEs will strongly depend on our ability to develop skills, embrace innovation, and build strong partnerships across academia and government. Today's discussion is therefore an opportunity to explore how African entrepreneurs can prepare for the next decade and position themselves for sustainable growth in the energy and extractive sector. So, with that said, I'm delighted to be joined by four distinguished professionals, which are Mr. Damien Wingo, the founder and senior consultant of DNA Consulting SARL from Senegal. I also have on my panel Miss Jessica, once again, pleased to meet you again. Jessica is the national content specialist for Uganda National Oil Company, and Mr. James Ngomeli, which is the co-founder and strategic director for Build POA from Kenya, and Mr. Charlie Knight, is a former senior energy specialist and energy access and healthcare electrification, sustainable energy for all. So he's also based in sub-Saharan Africa. Welcome all, and let's kick off.
Emmanuel, sorry, please, before you start, one of our speakers just came in. Can Dr. Doni come in and introduce him? He's a special guest speaker.
Okay, yes, please, yes. The floor is his.
Dr. Doni?
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished moderator, and thank you. So sorry for breaking into your session, panel 2 team. I would like to ask if Mr. Umar is in now. Mr. Umar, sir. Okay, panel 2 can continue. Maybe we'll take his session after panel 2 to save time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Duni. Okay, let's start. As we start our panel discussion, my question goes to all of the panelists. We can start with Damian first, and then Jessica, then James, and then Charlie. When you look ahead to 2035, what do you believe will define a successful energy and extractives micro, small, and medium enterprise?
Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be a part of this amazing MSME Congress. Dear moderator, thank you for your question. I think that if we are projecting ourselves in 10 years, the most important thing will be to actually assess what is needed in the ecosystem of the companies. And my answer will be very simple. It's about communication. We have plenty of countries in Africa that currently have developed experience and expertise when it comes to the energy sector, that being mining, that being oil and gas. And I think that it's a matter of communicating and identifying what are going to be the key elements that are required to develop those industries.
Okay, thank you, Damian. Then Ms. Jessica, the floor is yours. Hello, Jessica. Okay, Len. Hello, Jessica, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that wonderful question. My thinking is that by 2035, MSMEs will have shifted from being the service providers we know now in catering, security, and revolutionizing themselves into a future where an African SME creates technology, manufactures equipment, processes critical minerals, and develops clean energy solutions. And in addition to that, export innovation to the world. Because I believe the future now is in us using the artificial intelligence, and just imagine an MSME creating an AI-powered software that predicts refinery failures before they incur. This may not necessarily need a lot of money, but it just needs creativity. You could look at us like building systems and processes that support the African energy sector. And we believe that because definitely, like Dr. Duni said, we have the resources, we have the talent, and we have the market. And what we need to do now is to build enterprises that will transform these advantages into industrial growth, high-powered jobs, and global competitiveness using artificial intelligence as our backbone. I submit.
Thank you, Jessica. Very well said. And then let's go to Mr. James Ngomeli. The floor is yours. Hello, Mr. James. Can you hear us? Mr. James Ngomeli?
Yes,
go ahead.
yes, Tanya. How are you? Give
I'm
me
fine.
just you're well, give me 2 minutes. I just sit down somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we would like to hear from you when you look at ahead to 2035, what do you believe will define a successful energy and extractives micro, small, and medium enterprise?
Manuel, I think he needed another couple of minutes, he said.
Okay.
So
All
I'm
right,
happy
no
to
problem.
go
Then
first.
let's go, Charlie. Then
Yeah.
you can take this.
Okay, thanks, Manuel.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. Charlie Knight here, energy access and climate specialist. So I'm coming from an energy perspective rather than extractive specialist. So in terms of what would be successful for energy sector by 2035, I mean, there's over 600 people globally who still don't have access to energy, over 2 million people who don't have access to clean and modern cooking services. And there's about 1 billion people who are served by health facilities with no energy access or unreliable energy access. Now, the first two, obviously, the aim is to complete energy access and cooking access by 2030. We're currently not on track for those, but it'd be good if we get there by 2035. In terms of SMEs or MSMEs, I think some of the ideas that people have touched on already. So, having worked on grants, facilities, and funds in the past, I think access to finance is key. As people have said, it's not that there's a lack or a dearth of ideas or innovation or entrepreneurs in Africa. There are many of those, but it's about helping them with an incentivized and a better enabling environment for them to do business. It's about helping them have access to the right types of finance at the right times to help them scale from the great ideas and the research and development projects that are happening to, as they say, gain financing to the kind of the missing middle to help them scale up. And then I think another idea or another point that people have touched on is which is really important because at the moment there's too much reliance on importing technology and energy supplies from outside of Africa, obviously in particular China. So the sooner the local manufacturing sector grows, the better, so that Africa is not so reliant on elsewhere and can actually manufacture its own technology and parts, which is obviously linked to extractives and using those minerals and processing so that they get better value from those materials. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Mr. James, are you there? Thank you, Charlie, very well intervened. Mr. James, are you positioned? Can we start with you? Hello?
Sorry. You can hear me now?
Yes, perfectly. And we can see you as well. How are you, sir?
You can see me as well. How are you?
I'm fine,
Well, I've
thank you.
been listening to this conversation, and I think it is a very timely conversation for MMCs in Africa.
Yeah.
I sit around the energy space. That's why I've grown and bred in the energy sector, having worked in the power sector, and now a businessman and an advocacy around energy sector. Happy to see Jessica. We have sat in different forums around oil and gas between Kenya and Uganda. And I'll be happy to meet the other colleagues from Kenya here. And I think I would like to follow up with what my friend Charlie has just talked about local manufacturing around the energy space. And I think one of the key things that I want to mention is that it's really sad that the manufacturing around the value chain in Africa is very low. For example, let me take an example of Kenya. We are now at 80% access, and we don't manufacture meters, we don't manufacture transformers, we don't manufacture even cables. The last cable company went into liquidation, and yet we are calling ourselves we want to develop. When I look at the big program called M300, it's an Africa Development Bank program to electrify over 300 million people in Africa. And I've tried to go in the LinkedIn and ask them, how can you make manufacturing a key aspect around the value chain? I don't think there's a strategy for that. And the way my friend Charlie said, everything we just import. 3 years ago, we started an organization called Africa Smart Meter Association. And the challenge we started that association was because that we saw multinationals were coming and having a G to G, these kind of agreements where you come in an organization and say, I will finance all the meters, all the next 10 million meters will be financed by one person. So we formed that association so that we can lobby and tell the government, no, we can't have one company supplying meters, and there's nothing around manufacturing. It's about importing all the meters. So the association is still strong, and we presented our documents to Senate, government, and I know in another 2 months we have a summit around metering. So to me, that's one of the biggest challenges that I'm finding in how do we promote the MMC as we go forward. Secondly, I'm looking at the proof of concept. Most of all those countries that are coming to exhibit in our countries around Africa, the government has financed their proof of concept. So they are just coming to Africa to scale. While us, remember one of the moderators, the other channel said, we are subjected to tenders for 10 years. And this is something that we are really working very hard with the government. How can we have these innovations go into markets? And I think this is something that we are trying to ensure that. For example, we have very young people walking around with laptops, carrying very good innovations, very, very good ideas. But if you are to enter into a facility, you are to enter into a tender document, you will not enter. And while everyone in Europe has come through a process where the government has helped them to file, the government has helped them to bring that products to the market. But us in Africa, I think governments are not coming around to help us prove that this product can work. So what do we do, all of us? We are all looking for grants. So in fact, we have become more of grantpreneurs. Our work is to write papers looking for grants all over the world to do simple things that can be done by our local governments. So I think just I have a lot to say, but maybe we can start from there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. That was a very insightful intervention. You are totally correct when you say we cannot talk about local content. We cannot about retaining value without being able to manufacture it here. That's something that I really caught. Now, because of the timing, let us move on to our second question, and I'll start with you, Damien, again. Many SMEs understand that the artificial intelligence and digital technologies are important, but often struggle to know where to begin. What practical steps should entrepreneurs take today to prepare their businesses for the future?
Thank you very much for this other very interesting question. I think, again, it goes to cooperation between the different entities, mostly from the customers side of things and also from the government bodies. Today, we have something that is going to be a big revolution for everyone is artificial intelligence. And I think that some tools are actually going to be developed to provide some technical support for some companies that are actually starting into an industry to actually give them the first steps. Because sometimes when you start a business, you just have a willingness to do something. That's the very first step for entrepreneurship. But sometimes you get stuck. You're like, I want to do it, but how am I going to achieve that? And this is the very specific time when you actually require help and assistance. So I think that today, time is not going to be necessary from the government bodies or from the customers if they're actually able to provide assistance in the form or in the shape of artificial intelligence tools that could be put at the disposal of those smaller companies to help them scale their business. Then it's going to be just productivity gain, capacity building, and instant opportunities for them to get really started with the work they will be asked to conduct.
Yeah, thank you, Damian. Miss Jessica, local content policies have become a major driver for MSMEs participation across Africa. How can governments and industry ensure that local content initiatives genuinely strengthen local enterprises and create long-term value?
Thank you very much. I think where we need to start from is actually the way many African countries measure local content. They measure local content in terms of participation, how many contracts have been given to Ugandan companies, how many people are employed, and all those things. But we need to move from there and start measuring local content on value generated and the value that is left within the country. And a number of things can be done, especially in areas of knowledge transfer and in areas of setting up industrial parks and centers of excellence. Yes, we have done a lot actually in supporting local companies in certification, ISO, and also ESG support, and for companies to understand QHSE. But there's a lot still that needs to be done. And the thing we need to do is industrialization. Many of the contracts are actually bulked up, and you find that it becomes a struggle even to have these multinationals to subcontract components that can be done by national companies. Say, for instance, some manufacturing, say like if they want steel, they have a big company in Europe that they want to buy all the steel from, and yet there is a structure still that can be definitely bought from Uganda. And I'm not talking about the Ugandan perspective. So in Uganda, what we have done, we have a regulator who actually regulates these companies and make sure that in addition to the ring-fenced services, all goods and services that can be acquired from Uganda are actually purchased, or acquired services are acquired from Ugandan companies. There were times when, say for instance, like they say, oh, but the team of the expatriates that are coming maybe to do the central processing facility, majority of them say are Chinese, and so we may need a Chinese company to cook the food for them, and they would say, no, we need you to get in one Chinese cook to come and transfer this knowledge. And this is sort of like escalating now because we have Ugandan companies that are now designing and building well pads, which was not the case before. But when we look at Nigeria, we know that actually local content can work if the focus is actually on value retention and value creation, as opposed to numbers of contracts awarded and the number of people employed. I submit.
Thank you, Jessica, for that insightful intervention. Now, Charlie, as we are running out of time, what do you consider the biggest challenge facing future energy and extractives MSMEs? Access to finance, access to technology, skills shortages, or market access, and why?
Thanks very much, Manuel. Yeah, tough to pick one out of all of those. I think they're all very, very relevant. But I think there's already lots of great technologies and skills and entrepreneurs. I think what is probably I'll go for access to finance is certainly the biggest or one of the biggest challenges. I think it's been a theme across both panels. Having worked closely with quite a few SMEs recently on grant facilities, one of the real challenges is scaling. So as I mentioned before, there's often or there's more availability of the seed funding to test and trial, new approaches, new delivery models, etc. But the next step is what is really challenging. So there's lots of funding in the sector, but it's being able to access that. And quite often these SMEs, they're not always set up. They're quite new. They maybe don't have the capacity or the resources or the skills. So I think it's about enabling them to access the finance, which is really important. The finance is there, but it's trying to get it in the right way that makes it accessible, and also at the right time, so that organizations don't just trial something and start with a small pilot, but being able to scale up and actually, make that impact much broader. So yeah, I'll end there, given our time constraints. But yeah, access to finance is key.
All right, thank you, Charles. We'll still have one final question to all of you, all the panelists, as the time is running out. So I'll give you 2 minutes each, so that 2 minutes, 1 minute each at most, just to answer this question. If you were advising a young entrepreneur entering the energy and extractive sectors today, what piece of advice would you give them to remain competitive over the next decade? Thank you. I'll start with Damien.
I will start. The best advice I would give to anyone who wants to get involved is go search for informations. Everything is broadly available today. I'm sure that any entrepreneur can find a country that is way more developed than his own country today in terms of oil and gas, in terms of mining. Don't be scared to use LinkedIn, to write to people, to chit chats, send WhatsApp messages, get familiar with that business. And try to duplicate it by putting your own touch to what you're going to do. That would be the best advice I can give. Many examples of success all around, so let's get inspired by them and try to apply them into our respective countries. Thank you.
Great one. Thank you, Damien. Jessica, what will you advise to a young entrepreneur?
My advice would be to that young entrepreneur to embrace artificial intelligence, definitely look at digital tools, innovate, because that is the future of the world. That is where we are going. I submit.
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. James.
I think mine is very simple. I think these suggestions are they are not for young people. They are also for people like us. Yeah, we are young at heart. We are moving across Africa. We want to invest and move across Africa. And I think, to me, my message is simple: solve a problem. And that is what we must really. So if you are able to solve a problem, then funding will follow our problem. A problem you are solving, I can assure you that the rest of the things we will work themselves out and solve a problem that people are willing to pay for. That's another suggestion for young entrepreneur. Some solve through emotional, yeah, but solve a problem that people are willing to pay for. Thank you very much. But to me, I'm also gaining from these messages, the young people. Yes.
Thank you, James. That was a nice one. Charlie, I'll close with you.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll be quick. I would say be brave. Building on what others have said already, don't be afraid to reach out to people, organizations, governments to gather as much information as you possibly can, and don't be afraid to ask for help to increase your business. And also, I think try and mobilize local resources as much as possible. Use what is readily available in your area and look at that first before the need to look further afield.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. And I would like also to give my contribution to this question. I would advise to any young entrepreneur to overcome fear. Fear sometimes is what stops us from going beyond. So if you overcome fear and believe that you are able to do it, because that's the mental shift, that's what drives what the main drive for us to achieve anything we want in life. So I thank you to our panelists for sharing their valuable insights. Today's discussion has highlighted that the future of energy and extractives SMEs will not be shaped by technology alone. Success will depend on the ability of entrepreneurs to embrace innovation, develop relevant skills, build strategic partnerships, and create sustainable business models. Artificial intelligence will undoubtedly become an important business tool, but entrepreneurship, leadership, and innovation will remain fundamentally human. The future belongs to those who can successfully combine both. On behalf of the Angolan Geofiscal Association, I thank our panelists, organizers, and participants, and wish you a productive and successful Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you once again. A massive, well-deserved round of applause for our phenomenal panel two speakers. Manuel, you did a great job. Thank you for painting such a vivid picture of what the future generation of energy and extractive MSME looks like.
Thank you.
If I could distill from everything you said, first, the future of energy must shift from contractors to owners. So we must have ownership. We heard clearly that policies and local content law are still written, but they are written for 50-year-old IOC's executives. Yet African median age is 19. This mismatch must end now. Second, in-country value addition is a non-negotiable thing for us to survive, for our communities to strive, for us to have the ownership. We must focus on our local content. And third, regional harmonization is the unlock. AFTA gives us the framework, but we have the necessary tools to harmonize our local content. So I would say thank you once again. Brilliant, brilliant presentation. Beautiful panelists, good conversation. I don't know if Dr. Doni, are you available to introduce our special guest speaker, or can we move on to our next panelist?
No, okay. Good afternoon once again.
Thank you.
Distinguished MSME, distinguished speaker, distinguished compare. It's a pleasure to, I've been listening to all the different contributions from the different countries, from Nigeria to Uganda to Kenya to UK. Charlie, that was a very bright one. Damien, fantastic. Manuel, beautiful. Oh yeah, Madam Jessica, all the way from Uganda. James, thank you for telling us about the power aspects, the billing, the billing system, and the need for MSMEs to get into the manufacturing processing and value addition value chain. Like I said earlier during my opening speech, what brought about this particular Congress and the focus on energy. So I was with the Women's School of Business and Leadership team, and they were talking about the MSME Day, commemorating the MSME Day. And they were thinking of the industry or the sector they were going to focus on. So there were suggestions around health. There was another suggestion around construction. There was suggestion around banking. There were different suggestions, and I was able to prevail over them and told them, no, let's do energy, let's do extractive, because that's one major common thing virtually across Africa. And in the last 2 weeks, I have actually been personally amazed at the volume and the volume of deposits of the mineral, natural resources across virtually all the African countries. And in the last 3 days, actually, I have been in Quarry. I have seen organizations converting lithium. I've seen lithium in its literal look. Lithium is just like a stone behind my house for all you care. And I saw barite that is used in drilling. It just looked like a stone that would probably even make a child to fall. And then I was so amazed because we had the African Natural Resources Summit and we had representation from about 20 African governments. And we were able to also sign on the African Natural Resources Strategic Group to be led by the Minister of Solid Mineral Development in Nigeria. And at that 3-day meeting, just this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it was a big eye opener. I met an amazing man that speaks to the theme, the topic, the theme of it's as if ICSB or United Nations created this theme, this year's MSME Day theme, because of him. Because it's just like an embodiment of the entire theme, from future generation to human-centered entrepreneurship to the tech digitalization. I was at their booth yesterday. I saw amazing things they have done, from extractive to energy. And it is a privilege to invite in Mr. Omar. And I'm just going to take a quick shot at his reading his bio. He has a very interesting bio. Mr. Omar, was born 26 January 1984, so he indeed represents the future generation to an extent. I won't call him a Gen Z, maybe he's more like a millennial. So Mr. Sadiq, educational background, he has a foundational blend in military technical expertise and strategic management. He attended secondary school in Nigeria Military School, Zaria, and he has a BSc in building construction technology from Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, and a master's in facilities management from the same Ahmadu Bello University. He's a chartered building engineer and a member of the Chartered Association of Building Engineers UK and the Project Management Institute. From his National Youth Service Corps at the Federal Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban, his role as Group Managing Director of Steron Group, which encompasses the Steron Mining, that's extractive, and Steron Energy and Steron Construction. His career has shown progressive leadership in operations, project delivery, and institutional building. Mr. Omar has a proven track record in national development because he's the Group MD of Steron Group, and he has delivered high-impact projects, the Wassa lithium mining project in FCT I never knew, this is my 30th year in this industry. I never knew FCT had lithium until it took a high level delegation to the lithium pit, and is an embodiment of what we call pit to plug. His organization. He spearheaded the execution and advancing of the Nigerian critical mineral sector. Secondly, he also facilitated the national thematic mapping of restricted mining areas in Nigeria. He's led a key initiative for resource governance, supporting transparency and sustainability. He founded Steron Construction and the Made in Nigeria House, wow, Made in Nigeria House initiative, championing local content development and aligning with national industry policy. He's done a number of grassroots impacts. His services began long even before. He's done some politics across Kano Central, and he's delivered measurable intervention. In healthcare and social welfare, he conducted what is believed to be the first ever medical outreach in South Central, Kano Central. He's reached several local government areas, which speaks to host community and local content development. Over 15 local government areas where they do healthcare, eye surgery, and so on for them. It covers educational scholarship and feeding for a lot of orphans in the Madobi area. It helps them live with dignity and reach their full potential, leveraging education. He has sunk several boreholes and done quite a number. Now, because this program is actually convened by WSBL, Women's School of Business and Leadership, he's also done a number of women empowerment programs. He's distributed several empowerment, MSME empowerment projects, sewing machines to women across 15 local government areas. So it's not the Ashwebi kind of empowerment. He actually empowers them with MSME business tools. He's organized several skill trainings across multiple local government areas, such as making Vaseline, which is a product of petroleum, liquid soap, which is another product of petroleum, bags, and so on. He's also done a number of things around youth development, and so on and so on. And currently, he is an aspirant because he's going for he's a Senate aspirant. Okay, he's a Senate aspirant, and these are the kind of leaders we want. He's a father of three, and is married to, I believe, a very beautiful woman who has allowed him and given him enough space to be able to achieve all this. Please, with all the claps you can do, all the accolade, kindly join me and welcome Mr. Omar Sadiq as he shares his experience, his expertise, his exposure, his challenges as a MSME that has grown from innovation, that has helped to achieve the extractive to energy value chain, and is not just speaking about it on paper or on social media, is actually fully hands-on practicing. Please join me and welcome Mr. Umar, our special guest keynote speaker, to take on the floor. Mr. Omar, sir.
Oh, thank you, Ma. You almost made me take off. I'm almost running away. I'm wondering who you're talking about, but I'm most honored. I'm grateful. And these programs are made for the legacy of Africa and the world. Distinguished guests, representatives of all great institutions, and representatives of our partners, the MSME founders, innovators, and community leaders joining us today. I am Abu Bakr Sadiq Omar, MNI, the Managing Director of Stirron Mining and now Stirron Energy. I am honored to be here and share whatever the little that we have. Clearly, we are at a crossroads. The global energy transition is not merely a shift in power sources. It is a fundamental restructuring of global economy. And this is the moment of truth, as though we are known as Africans to host, to be a source of minerals, of global resources. However, there's a realization that we are one of the biggest markets in the world. We didn't put the resources there. That's the truth. I know it's a debate we have had. Africans will want to have a bragging right about owning resources. We understand very well that it was put there by God. But it's on us to process these things and for the benefit of humanity. Please, excuse me, let me attend to my kids 1 second. Baby, I'm coming. I'm on the phone, okay? Thank you. So sorry.
That is human-centered entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank God. So, I understand very well that this is, with all of the engagements, I am honored to cancel everything and jump on this because this just speaks to who I was or still am. MSME, the innovator, the entrepreneur, this
Mr. Sadiq, I think we lost you for about 30 seconds.
Okay. Am I on?
Yes, you are on. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to speak about the future of energy and extractives in Africa. A future where clearly it mandates us to move from poverty to prosperity with no one coming to help us. This is only totally on us. The reality on ground is that the young African entrepreneur, as brilliant and ambitious as they are, it must start with setting vision to overcome systematic barriers. You're young and underfunded. That's nothing to be sad about. That is your reality, and that is actually a blessing. In many cases, our own story started off like the lithium mining site in Wasa that Madam spoke about is started off as a quarry, and it started off with a curious question. As a building engineer, I sought out to get granite so that I could possibly have an edge. Because then I was looking, I was anxious to get married because the bachelor life was eating me up, with all the struggle. So, and in Africa, sometimes depending on how you look at things, it could be Herculean, especially if you want to do it by yourself. And Africa, you move with a big, large family, whether you like it or not. So I knew this was going to be like something that I needed to do major. And it wasn't just going to come from the salary I earn on sites and supervising all the professionals and putting them together. I knew it had to be an extra. So I thought about producing concrete elements and whatever could be real, what could be sustainable. So I sought out to get granite, and whoa, it was a reality I had to face, that it had the granite that was the major building material in the world. In this part of the world that I know, had almost nothing to do with construction. Like the source was all over there in the mining sector. You required to quarry it to mine it. I was like, okay. So that led me to learn what the requirements were, because I had to do whatever I was going to do just through knowledge, just through the intellectual property. I didn't have any capital. I couldn't brag of anything. So it wasn't about a case of me going into it because I had capital. But capital was just God and guts. Just the fact that, okay, we will go in to know what it is, and hopefully if someone needed bricks, blocks, interlocks, I can tell them where to get it at an affordable rate. So I knew that if there was anything I could do without any major capital, it was being a bridge. So there you go. I learned, and that learning at some point was my bread and butter. Just being able to tell, the next big man or the next average person where he could earn something, where he could buy a building material for an affordable rate, gained me a commission. So I now learned that, listen, if you need to query this, what was the budget? I started off with feasibility study. I also had to go and negotiate down with the consultants to do a feasibility study because I couldn't even afford his fees. So I broke it down, but he did, and I realized that mining was actually all encompassing because there was hardly any mining sites in the city. They were all in the rural areas. So you were forced to come and see the reality of Africa, the Africa that you are, not the one that sugar coated or made to look good and compete with anybody. This is who we are. Like, so there are times you go and you laugh. There are times you go and you cry, whether with them or just behind. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to see reality and you would respond to stimulus, regardless. So anyway, I figured that this might be what my calling is. Most of the people we met were into farming because that's basically all that they could do. And some loved it. Some felt like that was the only option. So you could tell the difference in courage and character from those that felt this was the only option to those that were glad to do it. So everything was relatable. When got understood the processes, then I was fortunate to join a group leading a delegation to South Africa on an agricultural conference. And they were given, they were seeking to have their container shipments sealed from their farm that would be untouched till it gets to the point of discharge. And that was only a requirement that could be met by large farm owners like Baxburg in South Africa, Cape Town, and in Nigeria here, and a good amount of Africa that I know, it has to do with either the ex-leaders or people that were deep into politics, just people that are highly connected. So average people couldn't get those kind of benefits. But I now said, listen, why don't you just put those little people together, just like a cooperative? But what I said then was I put the people together and give them one sibling and let the head of the village own the title. And everybody went quiet in the group. And I was like, oh, there you go again. I found myself in trouble. But after a day, I was called, do you have a passport? I said, yes. Come over here. I got an appointment to go get a South African visa. We're going on a conference on agric. I said, oh my God, well, the last time I did anything about agriculture is like high school. But the thing I learned the most about that trip was that it had nothing to do with agric. I was the program manager for the delegation, but it wasn't about agric. It didn't matter what the theme of the conference was. It was about my human relationship, like the capacity to relate to the delegation that we're leading and I was catering to and the people we're going to meet, the study tours and everything, So basically it was about your ability to connect. And you would find that useful anywhere you go in the world and in any situation you find. So really, we went to Baxburg anyway, and we found a mountain going into the first cloud, and everything was done in the farm. He doesn't buy anything from anywhere. So that was another turning point in my life, because I could see somebody that was self-sustaining. He's a white African. He's a South African, but he's very much African. We shared a lot in common. He just inherited the farm from his grandfather. So he was in his early 30s. I was in my late 20s then. So we were the only ones that could connect with, even the internet, the emails. There were a few things that we could relate. So being young at that point with a lot of all the big men around us was my currency, was a currency I could spend. Being young was an advantage. Being, suffer to say, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Being broke was a being broke and hungry for success, hungry to learn, hungry to know more, hungry to make things better was a currency for me. He could tell. So out of all of the entire delegation, he focused on me because he thought there was something he could teach me, he could pass on, because he just also inherited that land. So I'm saying this because where you are now, for if you are young, even if you are not, if you are hungry for more, is a currency. And the future that hasn't been built is also another platform that you are just about to launch from to greater, perspective. Now, for our own story, we sought out, we required about $2 million as at then to fund the quarry. But the consultancy that I was also doing for other people was what availed me the opportunity to travel around the world with different clients, a few of them. And I was shy actually to speak about quarry, to speak about stone. I think it's one of the cheapest minerals or building materials, if you may. So no one is really talking, no one talks about it. So anytime I talk about it, they will say, oh, do you mean dimensional quarrying, not aggregate quarrying? Because it's aggregate quarrying. There's no ship that really wants to take just stone across the Pacific or the Atlantic just to come to another country. But maybe dimensional quarrying, which is like the tiles, but that was like double the money. So I'm looking at like $4-5 million. So everyone was geared more towards African diamonds, sapphire, like the Mambila, like one of the best sapphire, second strongest stone in the world is the sapphire, and it's in one of the best you can find is the Mambila, which is in Nigeria. But again, getting to those places. So what people wanted from us as Nigerians, wearing things we're coming with to those conferences. Am I on? Can I think the network glitched.
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Sadiq.
So okay. So bear with me. It's I'm just gonna be mumbling everything to whatever makes sense, please. You can pick that along the way. So what people wanted from us wasn't what we were bringing, sort of. They wanted the diamonds, the gold, and we were like, okay, let's not force ourselves to the market. Let's listen to the market. Let's get the off-taker what he wants, and hopefully we get paid based on that. But there were certain stringent measures that were put in place, like the JOC report. I was learning about when somebody sprinkled sand across a site, and he brought some other people along with him to test the sand. So when they picked it, they tested it. Oh, it was great in gold, and apparently it was all scam. So now they're enforcing the fact that you have to do the core drills. You have to check out the depth of what you have, the volume of what it is, test the quality. And you now need to get someone that they trust to seal, to confirm that you followed the process and, it's according to the JOC standard before you could say that it's a bankable data. I was like, oh, wow. Before you believe that I have the gold. But there I was because this is now subsequent conferences and trips, and I was able to now bring the gold that we had. At that point now, I've now understood the mining sector. I'd gone in rigorously. I'd done it, gotten titles. But of course, people hardly give you what is verified. They give you so that you go to explore. I learned that again from developed countries because the bigger they get, the deeper they explore. Sadly, unlike some underdeveloped or developing countries, whereby when they hit any deposits that is good, they just stop exploring. They just start exploiting only. So, I mean, I got to learn more about what people wanted without even having the funding then. Now, the time of truth, the moment of truth. 7 years after we got the title of that granite and we couldn't get any funding to do the quarrying, we considered even flaking the stones for stone pitching. I had in mind, because growing up, there was a cartoon called Flintstones. Madam, you said I was Gen Z. I mean, but I think that I'll take that as a compliment. That means I'm young, right? Well, anyway.
No, you are not Gen Z. I say you are millennial. Yeah, I say you are definitely not Gen Z.
If
But
you
you are
call me
not
Gen
the
Z,
Dangotes. You are working.
oh my God, I'm honored by all of these. Now we found that the rock is isolated. You needed space to operate. Lo and behold, we found lithium veins on the land around the rock. What 7 years did for us was to integrate with the community, was to be real with them. I mean, we didn't even have a choice anyway, because they at some point all put their hands together to pray that we get funding, start operations, and we are able to fulfill some level of community development plans or agreements. So we found lithium veins, and strangely, it was a rejected material some years ago in Nigeria because nobody wanted it and people didn't even know what it was. But we're right at the cuspice of the energy transition. This was 2022. And the site was pillaged with artisanal miners just scrapping for anything, taking sacks and going. I was just simply in awe. Like, what is this white rock? You know, of course, I had at that point now learned more of these things, but I was shocked that the granite was right there standing strong and bold, looking up to the sky. And that was what we tried to crack all this while. But there was nothing happening. What people were interested in was this white thing. And there were Asians everywhere coming, there were foreigners, and they were like, they really wanted this deal. And I was just in awe. Okay, so fast forward to now we are settled in the operations. We had now put together friends and family funds to take off what we could. Off-takers had offered machinery. And mining, actually, like basic material, mining is primitive, except you go into deep sea mining and some other unique hard metal. But otherwise, really, it's primitive engineering. It's like really expensive because of the repetitive and the voluminous nature. But otherwise, it's not rocket science. So the machinery came to just drill, blast, pick, crush, separate chaff from what's real, pick what's real, take it into the sizes that the off-takers require, bag it, and off you go to where the point of discharge. Then there you go, you require another level of knowledge, kind of knowledge when it comes to the contract type. So if you're going to trade if you're going to sell when it comes to FOB or when it gets to their country. So we learned all those big technologies, and we now realize that there was a major shift at that point from the crude oil that is laden in Nigeria to the, energy, to the extractive, to the non-oil extractive that was going to fuel or, fuel the energy, the energy transition, the energy of the future. And we now learned again that from the same lithium, we're able to separate our own lithium. The minerals that we had in that lithium also had rare earth elements around it, which we now understood was used in the production of certain AI gadgets. I mean, we're just basically in awe that we're learning.
Wow. AI gadgets? Wow.
Yes. So, learning about the EV and the electronic vehicle and the battery. There are about 6 elements that make the electronic battery and 6 elements that make the electronic vehicle, but 3 of them are in common. So that means 9 elements make the battery and the vehicle. So we started thinking, out of all of these volumes leaving here, is it possible that these guys just come, or our partners come and just produce here? They get to cut the cost of the logistics, the shipping, and everything. So we started having these conversations, but it was still good because we were really honored when we get there. But we started to see the shift that it was only a few of us that were honored when we travel. It was those that were significant, that could provide something, not entirely. Anyway, fast forward again, moving to when we had to buy the inverter battery and the system itself to power our homes and the offices. The companies selling these things did not recognize us as producers of the lithium or the elements. And it was like a real sad reality. Like, you can't go saying that, do you know I produce lithium? Do you know I produce rare earth elements? Can you give me a discount? Nobody cared. It was top dollar. You pay or you leave. I was like, wow. So it doesn't matter that we produce these things. We still pay top dollar for the finished product. So I now let me scratch that. I demanded from the off-takers that I'm no longer going to receive cash only. We are not going to receive cash only for the products that we're giving you. What you're using it to produce, we require the same products at a discount. It was maybe it was a shock first, I understand that, Africans, we pack surprises anyway. So basically that was another one that we unloaded, or offloaded. And in the end, we were successful to get the first sample. You were also, I was honored to have you at the booth at the State House where the president of Nigeria is. And you saw the samples of our inverter system, battery, the solar panels. We also have a large deposit of 99% grade quartz that is crushed as silica sand, and that's largely the major mineral used in making solar panels. So what we set out to do basically is to see if we can provide the raw minerals, the materials required in making all these systems that can earn the producers and off-takers a good amount of profit. Once they are good, once you're sure that you're good, you're making money, you're good. Now we want this finished product because we are a large market. We're one of the largest in the world. So we consume everything. We're a consumer continent. And there's nothing that is a mistake. It's a lesson. There's no mistake about anything. We have learned to consume. There should be something we're professors at consumption at this point. So we now just feel at some point, no matter how much guacamole tastes good and all of these foreign food, there are just times that your soul wants your grandmother's cooking. The food, it's time your palate wants home food. It's good. Fine dining is good. It can't be every day. So these products, there's just going to come a time that your mind requires what is built by you, by us, basically. So we set out to do two things: get the factories that would produce these same energy appliances, solar street lights, inverter systems, the lithium batteries, the solar panels, as you may, gadgets, the drones. We're able to provide virtually all the minerals used in making these things. And we offtake while we feed stock. So a part of it, right, is kept for our future production in continent, in country, while we are selling some to stay afloat and keep the lights on, and also be able to fuel what we are doing.
Okay, looks like we lost Mr. Sadiq there. Okay.
Oh yes,
we're walking. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, one shift that we found was that there were people willing to buy minerals from us so long as we had legitimate certificates of source, right? But the investors were hesitant, except we're able to confirm and establish the reserves. So you would not invest if you are not certain about the deposit, quality and quantity. But if the minerals are extracted, you would buy. So okay, that is a good thing. At least we are not trapped to saying you wouldn't do anything except nothing, right? So we set out to extract, as primitive, as little as we could. We were able to trying to do it sustainably, smart, green. That opened more doors because we were conscious of the environment and the people. And don't forget, we spent a lot of time with the community trying to break grounds with the quarry. So we had we had gotten in tandem with them. We had understood what they wanted. We had tried to help in little ways that we could before we even got any feedback from, because we are, as Africans, we outsource a lot to God. It's time to take on some task ourselves. It's not to say that there was exactly anything brilliantly that we did. The truth about it is that the entire resource is already where it is. It's when it's time that it'll be revealed. However, it doesn't stop you from searching. You should keep exploring. I mean, I'm just very clear about it that they're indicators. Now, there's a level of reality that comes to a West African, for instance, that is not everywhere that is secured as of today. Doesn't mean that there are people that do not need the minerals desperately. So part of the challenges that we've had is security, right? And if some minerals are of high demand, honestly speaking, the place will be secured for the extraction, even if not for the safety of people, sadly. I'm not talking about what I would some minerals that need to be extracted from somewhere desperately by a high-end off-taker. Somehow they provide the security for that extraction. So we thought to ourselves that, is there any technology that could ascertain the deposits of minerals anywhere in Africa without you putting boots on ground? And when it is ascertained, then we can discuss with an off-taker that understands global politics and security. And we stumbled across the nuclear magnetic resonance that honestly wasn't built by Africans and isn't still run by Africans. And it's believed by those that built it and those that are with them. So the foreign experts understand nuclear magnetic resonance technology as a standard of establishing the occurrence of minerals and can be superimposed with 3D models to even establish the depth of these minerals, percolate the surface of the earth, and give you some level of quantity. So if anything, at least, is either you use some kind of local content or find just to go get quality, of which even some technologies are able to give some level of quality to, depending on the kind of mineral anyway. But Q and Q can be established without putting boots on ground, which if it can be verified, then really the issue of funding and the issue of trust, is there minerals there? I think it will be that it can be a waiver for that. So a lot of Africans can be well off by the end of Saturday if there was some level of certainty that they are minerals.
Okay, level of certainty with the minerals. Thank you very much, Mr. Omar. I'd like to just put some questions through to you that had come in the course of preparing for this session. So the first question we have here says, what did ownership of a mining organization actually cost you personally? You remember the part of the theme for this year's MSME Day is humanizing entrepreneurship. What has it cost you personally, family, health, mental health, or maybe some people even insulting you, some people calling you, whatever. what has it cost you personally? Because this is to help upcoming entrepreneurs to build resilience. There is no big deal. You pass through it. Everybody passes through it. Thank you. 1 minute on that. Thank you.
First, I have gray hairs now, a lot of it, and
Interesting.
it's gonna cost you. It will shave off what is unnecessary around you and about you. I think it's also going to teach you more of you can't squeeze orange and get apple juice. Sadly, when you're under pressure, whatever you find is really what's in you. You don't need to be worried or sad about it. It's just the reality. You need to, if you don't like what came out, work on it. If you like what came out, then you know who you are. It's going to shave off a lot of friends that you thought were friends. You would realize that it's not, you're going to see a lot of wealthy people where you are favored above them. So you would know it's not everything that it's money. You need to put the human touch. You need to, everything. Interestingly, a lot of businesses in Africa and the world are people centered and service providers, but maybe they don't even realize it too. So you would need to focus more on what people want and and to educate them if it is not good. And if it is good, you should listen. You don't have to force your own culture, norms, and ideas on them. You can pay that attention to it. So yes, well, that's what it will cost you.
What people want. Thank you very much for that. Human-centered entrepreneurship. The next one says, what specific law, policy, or community structure saved your business when you had capital issues? I know you told me you went to Wall Street, New York, and how were you able to scale that bit? Because a lot of MSMEs, a lot of people have fantastic ideas and innovation, but they are having issues with funding. Tell us, sir. Thank you.
Again, as I said, I learned the policies and the bylaws of the Ministry of Mineral Resources. Hello, Ma, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry, interferences. So, you said what policies, right? So,
what
the
law, policies, regulation helped you in your down moments?
In Nigeria, there's a policy that requires community consent. So that you as a miner don't come and oppress the community with any kind of resource that you have, and also the community do not trap you in the community and pose a danger to your life. So it requires you to go down to the community. That policy of community consent is great. It requires you to go down to the community and enlighten them on what you're doing, who you are, and your intentions. And they also tell you theirs. And at that point, they realize that's the only time that you're able to pause and listen to them and learn. And you would find that there's something that they do that has made them become a community. If not, they wouldn't have gone past 2, 3 people all across their history. So there's something that they thrive on, which helps you diversify. Once you're extracting and you're taking care of your environment, you can also take care of them and earn by whatever it is that they usually would do. You would have supported them and also maybe earn if you choose to diversify. So yes, community consent was really greatly helpful. Yes, and just the knowledge of the industry sometimes could be the only currency that you have. Not to forget that data is the new currency. So just the knowledge of the sector, both community, regulators, and the other actors, just the knowledge could earn you a lot.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Knowledge is power, and be community minded. Don't just trample on them because you are now the big man. Okay, the next question says, walk us through your ownership model. How did you access the license? You already told us how it was by providence. You were looking for granite, and then granite became lithium and so on. But walk us through the structured aspect of it, because I know that there's no way you would have been at the State House, where the presidency is, to exhibit, if not because you have some level of model structure that had now attracted the creme de la creme of the nation, even the presidency. So walk us through that ownership model to encourage upcoming entrepreneurs, MSME that also want to go into the extractive space. How did you access your license? Was it very difficult? What was the value? And so on. How did you move from extractive to the energy bit of it? Because what it means is you are now kind of implementing the entire value chain from extractive to energy, what we call from pit to plug. Please just quickly walk us through that in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the one thing I stayed true to was the hustler spirit, just basically wanting to be better, wanting to earn for myself and take care of my family, and getting the best with the little available. Just getting the most from little to nothing. So I think that spirit was very clear. You couldn't hide this. You couldn't. It doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine, right? So I have always been open, and I became more open to managing businesses with people that are better than me in their own field. So I was first, I think I've been like the last born in most of the things that I do. Like if you may, I've been the youngest in a lot of boards, in lots of groups. So okay. First, I'm actually the last born in my family. So maybe that I already had that training from birth. I learned to listen to other people and not be perturbed by somebody surpassing me in anything. I mean, we all have our race. So the model is about bringing people together that are better than me in their own field. I got a friend of mine that was an international banker to support me with the financial policies and how things are done and speak the big lingua. I got also someone that retired from government, that is a father figure, to tell me about how policies are being shaped and how you coin out the languages in letters, how you put your words to war. I also got a family relative that was a judge. Well, the industry again is unique. So again, you need to be very careful because people could tell you and project their fears on you. But this is it's a unique industry. Again, like for Nigeria, we feel our fathers don't know much about mining. Our grandfathers do. Right from the World War II time, there were lots of minerals that were gotten out of Nigeria to make products that were used in the World War II. But we didn't have the recognition. A quarter to a third of the gold in Dubai is from Nigeria. However, Nigeria is still not recognized as a gold producing country. So these models came from putting people together that are good at their own field. There was something you asked again about how the mining turned energy, right? It was the same story I told you about trying to get inverter systems for ourselves, and nobody cared that we were part of the energy transition, supplying it to a good amount of Asia and the other off-takers. Because we did not see ourselves as a market, we saw ourselves as a source. So that wasn't, I mean, and these resources are finite anyway. So they will finish at some point if we are not careful, except whatever God ordains. So we put ourselves in a position to say, listen, we can negotiate. We realize we have the voice and we have the power to. It's just the truth. It's not, we're not fighting anything. We need to be able to, we need peace to negotiate well and to benefit from these things. So the model is to include people that are better than you in their fields and industry knowledge, and to learn to negotiate well. Learn to know what, one major task a leader in the industry must have is the ability to isolate the most important thing out of your priority. Whether as an entrepreneur or anything, you need to understand whatever is most important to you. At some point, it might have nothing to do with money or the pursuit, as in directly the pursuit of what you're looking for. It might be something that regards to your family or your personal life or even a friend. just something that has been bugging you, haven't done well, just try to identify exactly what is important among the priority. That is key. So you're able to do a lot of, you're able to take out a lot of the priorities on your list. Yeah.
Thank you very much. There are quite a number of questions, but because of our time, because this conference, this congress actually started since like 10 a.m., I would like to ask you the last question here, which is still very centered around the theme for the United Nations theme for the MSME Day 2026. So if you could tell your younger self, your younger founder self, one truth about surviving this industry, what would it be? Tell us, sir. Thank you.
This is quite emotional, you know. Like if you just told me to just advise anybody, it's better. But when you say your younger self, about 5 days before I graduated from the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, which made me a member of National Institute, which is the highest think tank, which is this badge, I lost my older brother that believed in me the most. You know, he was always super proud of me. But one thing, you know, that he was always clear about me that I did not understand, but now because he's not there, I get to listen to it more, is that respect your future self. Like, just, if there's anyone you're going to respect the most, is the future of yourself. Whatever you, like, see yourself in the best way possible. Not a bloated sense of yourself, but believe in yourself enough to respect that you would be someone, even if it's not in person, your people would be okay. You would fix structures. Now, I don't see that being feasible or sustainable if you do not serve the success of other people. You need to be able to delay gratification. Just forget about yourself for a bit. Not like you don't matter. You matter the most. However, understand that when people succeed is when you truly succeed. Money is not exactly success. I mean, I'm sorry for anyone that I understand how it will be like, oh no, you know, you might be comfortable now, so you're saying all of this. No. When people succeed because you supported them, every part of you would be good. You would just feel lifted, honestly. So delay gratification and respect your future self. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to throw the session open to just 2 questions from our participants. I know some people have been private chatting me that they have 1 question, 2 questions. So I'm just going to allow just 2. Please, if you have a question for our special guest keynote speaker, in just 30 seconds, please just raise your hand. I will call you, but they're just going to be 2, and you will, ask the question, and then we will close this session and move to the COCO, which is funding. Thank you. And then we close the Congress for this year. Thank you. So anybody, please raise your hand. Those people that have been private chatting me, please raise your hand if you have any question or any more question rather for Mr. Sadiq Omar. Thank you. Okay, I guess all the main questions have been answered. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadiq Umar. You've actually walked us through your entrepreneurial journey. You've told us about the future entrepreneurship. You've told us about how you got funded. You've told us about the initiative you used, the ideas you leveraged on, and how you leverage knowledge, how you sought knowledge. And one critical important part of it is you also mentioned how you ensured you respected people, and you focused more on what people want, because it is about the demand that brings supply, not you just go and supply what people don't want. Thank you very much for enlightening us, and particularly because our core focus is on energy to extract energy, and you truly embody that particular case study. Thank you very much. And then we wish you and your organization the very best as you move from MSME to large scale organization. Please, can we give a big
Thank you
fat
very
E round of applause, expression,
much. I wish
reaction
everyone
to
all the best, ma'am.
Mr. Omar? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Omar. Okay, I will have to hand over the microphone back to our distinguished compare, Miss Ogo. Miss Ogo.
Amen. It's our mother. Amen.
As we quickly please, if you are not talking, please kindly mute. Please mute. Thank you. Okay, we'll quickly go to the very final panel that speaks to funding and AI. Funding and AI. Miss Ogo. Miss Ogo is actually in Togo. She is broadcasting from Togo, and she's done a fantastic job comparing this conference. Miss Ogo. Okay, while we wait for her to rejoin, maybe network has thrown her out, we'll probably just quickly go into the third panel and last panel for this event. And the panelists, just let me quickly go on the panel platform. The panelists for this third panel, we have Mrs. Tolulope Babajide from the program director, FinRise Africa Guarantee Fund Africa Guarantee Fund from Kenya. If you're in, please show us your video and kindly unmute. Next, we have Mr. Ivan Kadiri, Business Development Manager, FinTech from the Development Bank of Nigeria. Please, if you are in, also unmute and your video. We have Miss Esther Dasano, former Gender Director, MasterCard Foundation, Rwanda. Please, if you're on, please unmute. We have Miss Blessing Egbe, BE. She is the Mentor Global AI Hackathon 2026 USA, and she's the founder of the SMATE Foundation. Please, if you are on, also unmute. And lastly, we have Mr. Akiwande Pierce, Senior Private Sector Development, Access to Finance, Policy Partnership, Regulatory Engagement, GIZ Nigeria. Please, if you are also on, kindly unmute. I will quickly run through the concepts for the panel 3. Capital and AI are the two levers that will determine if African MSME lead the transition or they just watch from the sideline. So we can speak all this big and beautiful grammar, but of course you need money. So most funding assumes collateral and 5-year audited accounts and so on, and many requirements the funding organization normally requests for. The objective of this panel is to also see how MSME organizations can be able to access funding, because they may not have all the collateral and all the things, standard things, most banks and funders normally request for. But how can we still find a way to accommodate this MSME? Because we know that capital must be de-risked and demystified, and MSME do not need $10 million to start. We heard our special guest keynote speaker. For him, it was about traveling. It wasn't even the money. For him, it was about knowledge. So somebody needs $1,000, $500, $10,000 here and there to be able to start a real detection, a leak detection service company, a safety monitoring service company, and so on. So Capital and AI must be de-risked and demystified for African reality. No collateral. And for the AI bit of things, we have to also understand what are the AI tools we can use in the energy and extractive value chain, considering our very low bandwidth. We've experienced the bandwidth situation even on this at this Congress. A lot of people were thrown out several times and we're having to allow them in again. How can we also use AI in HSSC, AI in monitoring our mining sites, AI in CCTV labs, and so on. So we expect this panel to be very pragmatic and practical, and then the speakers would be speaking to available funds. So basically, I think that's the thing. Let's see the speakers that are on currently. Please, Miss Blessing. Miss Blessing. Oh, okay. Looks like she's been thrown out. Please, Miss Blessing, if you are in, kindly unmute yourself so that we can.
Is it
Miss
me you are
Blessing?
talking about?
Miss Blessing?
Okay, no. This is Chief Dr. Anita Nana Okuribido.
Okay, looks like Miss Blessing is not in. Mrs. Babatope. Mrs. Babatope from Rwanda. So Mrs. Babajide from Rwanda, from Kenya, Ivan from Nigeria, Esther from Rwanda.
I'm connected. Good afternoon. Good morning, I guess, still your time. I'm
Oh,
connected.
good morning. Oh, good to have you in. Okay, how are you doing? We are happy to have
I
you.
am well. Thank you. Apologies for bandwidth reasons. I'll leave my camera off if you don't mind.
We understand. That's part of what we're supposed to be talking about. Okay, quick one while we wait for the others to also come on. You already at least have a very good idea of what this is all about. I will just ask some few questions. How do we demystify funding for MSME organization? Because what you now even see, the kind of reaction you see now in the market is MSMEs are like, oh no, those funding are not for us. And then for the organizations, to some of them are like, no, it has to be very big ticket projects. How do we close that gap? Or how has your organization helped to close that gap? Thank you.
Okay, so I can't speak for the organization because again, I am no longer there. But having had a number of years of experience in everything around SME financing and financial inclusion, I think there is a big misunderstanding between the market and the supplier of or the suppliers of funds. And what I tell SMEs often is two things. One, know your sector, or maybe I should say three. One, know your sector. Second, understand your risk. And third, understand which financial instrument and financial institution is the better place to support you along the ways of your growth. So it's not everything financing that is for everybody. And I think very often if you will, the misunderstanding is we see these large projects. So for example, the mining sector is a very particular sector, as the speaker before we jumped on was saying, in the sense that it tends to be a sector that, for the most part, has been very much government led, right? And so those conversations would happen with larger types of corporations, which tend to look for big tickets. big amounts of financing, and those big amounts of financing usually are not even funded at, commercial bank level. They're funded by organizations such as the International Finance Corporation, the World Bank, that are looking to fund these larger tickets. So if as an SME, all you've seen is that, and you're trying now to get access to financing through those entities, for sure you will not access, right? Because the size of your company, the size of your project comes nowhere near to what these types of organizations are actually looking for. The other thing to also understand is that these organizations are not structured to actually work with the small ones. So they don't fund directly the small ones. And so, in order for the small ones to get financing, they therefore have to go through the intermediate, which is usually either a commercial bank or a grantee that has access larger funds from these larger organizations, and they are now looking to work with smaller entities that have, the ability to respond to the needs that the intermediate and the larger organization has in order for them to access the financing. But then again, because the sector is so specific and so special, it comes also with a certain number of limitations, if I can call them that way, in the sense that, so I'll give you an example. When I was at the World Bank, funding mining programs was very specific. It had to meet environmental and social standards. It had to be of a certain size and so on, which means that the investment required is fairly hefty, right? So if you're telling me that as an SME, you don't need 10,000 to start, then for sure, this is not the area that you're in. If what you need is more of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, then the financing mechanism that you need is completely different. It might not even be commercial bank, right? It might actually be that it's group savings that actually gets you there. It might be that it's more of, a retail banking type of a product that you need, but you keep knocking at the door of a World Bank who will never, give you the time of day. So that's one. The second is you were asking me about my former organization. As much as they fund so many things, they do not fund mining whatsoever. So if as an SME, you're just saying this organization is providing grants and then you're coming, but not really understanding what the organization does, then you become frustrated. So I think it's really important as SMEs that we understand our ecosystem and that we position ourselves in the right ecosystem in order for us to be able to access the right type of funding at the right time and at the right terms. The last thing I will say is around this issue of collateral. Why is it that financial institutions ask for collateral? The first thing that we have to understand in this particular case is money is business. The financial institutions are business people, just like SMEs are business people. It's about the bottom line, right? It's about the profit and loss that you make. So if we're taking it in that way, and financial institutions are saying, look, I'm lending you the money, I'm in the business of lending you the money. There are two things that have to be true. Number one is I have to make sure that my money is covered regardless of who you are and of what happens. That's when collateral comes into play, which goes back to what I was saying earlier, is know and understand your risk, because the bigger your risk, the higher the collateral that you're going to be asked is, right? Because that money has to be covered regardless of who you are. And then second is it has to be profitable, just like your SME has to make money, the bank has to make money. If there is no way to, ensure that the funding is going to come back and it's going to come back at the right time and with the right interest, then the bank is not going to be willing to take the risk. And the SME or the entrepreneur is the only one based on what they have done. So their financial history, based on their character, because you will be judged on your character, right? You're the only one who can really ensure and give that assurance to whomever is financing you that they will recuperate their money. Now, having said that, because collateral is difficult, right? It's about property and it's about land and it's about all of these things. There are different mechanisms that enable you to circumvent the need of a collateral. So Tolu is not on connected just yet, but the guarantee mechanism does that. But the guarantee mechanism very much leverages the reputation that you've built over time as an entrepreneur in order for you to be able to leverage it, because it's almost taking it's blind fated risk, if I can call it that way, in the sense that I'm saying, okay, I trust you, and because I trust you, I'm not going to ask you for hardcore collateral. I'm going to put a guarantee in place that's going to cover it. But what happens is, because it's a softer, if you will, kind of a collateral, if you don't pay, I draw on that guarantee, right? But the idea is not to draw on the guarantee. The idea is for you to repay the loan, right? Because if you don't repay the loan, well, the bank doesn't last. And the bank not lasting means there are other people who have put their money in it. There are other people who have invested in it, i.e., these larger organizations that cannot directly invest in SMEs and are choosing to invest in the bank so that they can invest in you, that then go down. You see what I mean? So it's
Thank
really
you.
important. I think very often we're like, oh, we're not accessing financing, but I think it's very important to understand the ecosystem. The more you understand the ecosystem, the better you are uh, able to position yourself. One last thing, you're an SME, you need $1,000 or 1,000 something. Please do not go knocking on the doors of these large organizations. You will only be frustrated, because that's not what they do.
Thank you very much. I like how you've concluded that. But the question is this: today the United Nations is commemorating, or we are commemorating within the United Nations the Global MSME Day, and we all know that when it's only when there is demand that there will be a supply. This is a recurring, funding has been a recurring decimal. Even several surveys have been carried out with different MSMEs in different sectors and different industries. So if this MSME needs fund to be able to then move the economy of the nation to the next level, create jobs, how is it possible? What policy? Because you have just mentioned here that most of those DFIs and those banks, they don't fund MSME. How can we get them to create products? What needs to be done? Because the reality is, it is an MSME. Most of the thriving organizations and businesses you see these days, they start as at the nano level, some micro level. What can be done to get these organizations to create products? Not everybody is going to start big. For MSME organizations, what do we need to do? What strategy should we put in place? What policy should we advocate for, such that we can also accommodate these MSMEs? Thank you. Tell us.
So let me just correct something. It's not that these big organizations don't fund MSMEs. They don't fund them directly because they're not structured to do that, right? However, they have programs in place to support MSMEs, right? So if you look at all these large organizations, they're receiving funds, by the way, from somebody else in order to invest it in what I refer to as the intermediaries. Now, who are the intermediaries? Intermediaries are commercial banks. Intermediaries are microfinance institutions. Intermediaries are equity funds. Intermediaries are fintechs, right? Intermediaries are guarantee funds. Yeah. So these types of organizations are the ones who are uh, being invested into. And I stress on that because the same way you are expecting to get funding from them is the same way they're drawing funding from somewhere else. So that funding has to be paid regardless, right? So they utilize funding from these larger organizations to then fund MSMEs, right? So in the ecosystem, though, there are rules and regulations that have to be respected. You understand? And so, depending on the kind of enterprise that you are, it's very important that you know where you need to go, which is why I said if you are an enterprise that's looking for $100 to $5,000, you don't go to a commercial bank. That's too small for them, right? There are other mechanisms that are there. Digital finance is one that you need to take a look at. Microfinance is another one that you need to take a look at. But those products, if you will, or those mechanisms per se, are different in the sense that they're going to take a higher risk, but that higher risk has a cost. Now, as an SME, you're going to have to make that decision. Is that the way you want to go? If you're above that, you've gotten to the point where you're at 5,000 and now you're really looking for the 10,000, 20,000, $30,000 loan, you're not going to stay at microfinance. It is time for you to graduate to commercial banking. But when you go into commercial banking, there are rules that are there. So the question as an entrepreneur is, how have you positioned yourself in order to meet those rules? What are those financial institutions looking for to feel comfortable that they can actually finance you? Very often I say it's not that the financing is not there. The money is there. The problem is how is it that we're meeting the rules? And to your point earlier, policies also have to be in place that make it you know, slightly easier, right, for financial institutions to measure the risk in the right way, right? Because this is the thing.
Okay.
If I don't
Okay.
know,
Mm,
right, as a financial institution, if I don't know, it's a risk.
mm,
You see? So the moment I see risk, I have to take the right action because the cost of this risk is me losing the money.
mm,
You see? So as an entrepreneur, I have to be able to think like the financier. And as I
mm.
think like the
Think like the
financier, then my
finance.
first question is, okay, how do I understand my risk? And if I was to, present it and vouch for it to show that it is actually a lower risk, what would I need to do? As a matter of fact, just last week, I was on a panel with a banker, and we were talking about the same exact issue. And she said, this is the thing. We don't know. She was talking about, for example, the creative industry. It could be mining, it could be agriculture, it could be whatever, right? We have a certain perception of the risk based on our expertise as bankers. You, as the entrepreneur, you understand the sector that you're in better than anyone. You need to come and we need to have that conversation. So there is also a need, therefore, to build a relationship between the entrepreneur and their financial institution, right? It cannot just be that you come in today and you think you're going to get the money. You need to build that history. You need to build that reputation. You need to build that relevance because otherwise the risk of giving the money is too high, right? And so bankers sit on the funds until they're comforted with the risk. SMEs look for the funds, but they don't understand the risk. And this is where we've been stuck. We keep being stuck. Those who get the funding, because it's not that people don't get funds. There are SMEs who get funds. There are products galore. Every financial institution that you walk into, they're going to tell you, we have products to support MSMEs. It's there.
Mm.
The question, though, is how do we as SMEs understand the risk that we're putting forward that gives comfort to the lender to say, I am willing to put my money here, right?
Thank you very
That's the
much.
challenge.
Yeah, thank you very much on that, Esther. I think the main point is the MSME organization. The funds are there, that's well established. However, the MSME organization needs to then know how to access the fund, the documentation they need to put together, and so on to be able to access the fund. Because of our time and because a lot of people would like to go, like in Nigeria, we say Saturdays for Owambe, you know, and so it's an honor to still have all these people here on a typical Owambe Saturday. I'd like to also finally ask a question that focuses on, based on your past experience, you've worked, with International Finance Corporation, IFC, on the gender desk. You've worked with the African Development Bank Group as well as the AFAWA coordinator. You've done MasterCard. Could you kindly give us at least some funding, some funding that are available for MSMEs, those that are available for women, that maybe can be low hanging fruit for participants on this call to quickly leverage on. And I'm sure they now understand that they need to know what it takes or what the requirements are, and they can package their organization or their company to be able to access those funding. So if you can just give us some of those funding are probably still accessible, available across those amazing organizations you had served currently and in time past. Thank you.
Thanks. I will answer that question differently because the funding is accessible in so many places. What I would say and urge the women entrepreneurs who are listening to me to do is to put your financial institution to the test. Go to the financial institution where you are and ask them what is it that they do for women entrepreneurs. What is the program that they have for women entrepreneurs? Because I could tell you, so African Development Bank has the AFAWA program, but that you knowing that is not going to do anything for you because the AFAWA program goes through financial institutions, and those financial institutions have leveraged this program to create something of their own. So it's not so much about AFAWA, more so than it is about, Bank A saying, we understand the women's market. We understand that women are a profitable segment. And because of that, we've created the Elevate program. What you as an entrepreneur you do not know is the fact that Elevate might actually be supported by a FAWA, which enables them to take a risk that they would not have been able to take on you otherwise. So it's not for you to know about that program. It's about you putting your financial institution to the test and saying, as a woman entrepreneur, what are you able to do for me? Let them talk to you about the program that they've put in place. Let them talk to you about what are the principles, the in and outs, the rules of this program, and then decide whether this is good enough for you and you think you can grow with it, or whether it's not. And if it's not, then go to the next bank and ask them the same question. Now, once you land to the financial institution that you think fits for you, there's work that you have to do. You have to build your credibility. And building your credibility means making sure that you have the financial history that is needed, that your account is not empty for 6 months and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of money there and then 6 months later it disappears, that you're really, setting yourself up to become that partner that this financial institution is looking to accompany on their growth, right? So programs, there are many out there, right? Whether it's World Bank, whether it's AFDB, whether it's MasterCard Foundation, whether it's EBRD, they're all working with financial institutions in one way or another. So it's not so much the programs and the products, more so than it is really creating that relationship with your financial institutions and taking them to the task. What are you doing for me as an entrepreneur? What is the program that you have? Don't just walk in being very transactional with your bank, right? I'm here to open an account and then eventually I'm going to take a loan. That will take you nowhere.
Thank you. Thank you. That will take you nowhere. Know what they want and position. So I think the main summary of that is be very intentional and deliberate about your funding search, and don't just leave it to chance. And she had also confirmed that all those fundings are there. As a matter of fact, I have a testimony to that. For instance, in 2018, my organization was part of the team that advocated for a female women in oil and gas quota funding from the Nigerian content intervention funding, of which a $20 million per annum was deposited for women to access on a rolling basis. And Nexim Bank doubled that fund, making a total of $40 million. You will not believe that between 2021 and now 2026, when that fund was launched, barely 10 female-owned organizations have accessed that fund. So I don't think so. From what Esther had told us this afternoon, it is not just about the funding, the access to the funding, is about the knowledge, about the funding and the right packaging to be able to access the funding. So every now and then, I personally am challenging Nexim Bank MD to say, you're not giving my women money. They need money to be able to do oil and gas. And it's like, we're not seeing projects. And I think that is the peculiar thing with MSMEs generally. Even with this last event we had with the Ministry of Solid Mineral, it was the same thing. So we had a lot of investors flew in from Canada, flew in from London, and they wanted to see projects. They wanted to see projects IM. They want to see project packaging, pitch deck, and all that. And all those things didn't exist. What we only had was, in my village, there's a lot of lithium. In Nasarawa, we can bring a lot of tin. Where is your packaging? So everybody out here, it is about you packaging your business, MSME, whether you are nano, you are micro, you are small, or you are medium business. And that's a major point that Esther, who had worked across virtually all these institutional organizations, had to tell us as a subject matter expert. Thank you very, very much, Mariam Esther, for the enlightenment, and we will definitely also get back to you on how we can ensure the packaging. Thank you, and thank you. Okay, so we have come. Okay, yeah, Esther is saying something. Yeah, please, you can talk. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I say happy Global MSME Day. We have come to the very last, okay, somebody is raising their hand, I think the question. All right, please, Oluwa Sheung, could you kindly unmute yourself and quickly ask your question in 30 seconds? Thank you.
Sorry, that was a mistake. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. Our distinguished compare from Lume, are you back in? Okay, Madam Ogo is not back in. All right, we have actually come to the very end of this Congress today, and I'm sure it's been interesting for us. Please, if you still have any question, any clarification, anything you want to say, please feel free to put it in the chat room. We'll send it to the different speakers. But in closing, I would like to say that this is a yearly Congress, this being the maiden edition. It is not only focused on energy and extractives. We started with energy and extractive because I was able to impress it on the organizers, and I told them I will ensure that we fill in the room, but there will be other industries and other sectors that would also um, uh, be focused in subsequent editions. And then in closing, I want to let us know that it is not just today. The Congress is not just a one-day Congress. Across the entire week. Currently, as we speak, this same event is ongoing in several countries, and particularly even in the United States of America, where ISB head office is. And to further commemorate this MSME Day, we have a special training for those that would be interested. The training is tagged oil and gas. There are actually three series. There is the series for oil and gas MSME opportunities for 2026, where about 50 oil and gas MSME, we mean businesses you can start with little or no money, from $0 to $0 to $50, $10, $1,000, $50,000, and so on. So nano, micro, small, and medium scale. We want to demystify the idea that the energy, oil, and gas industry requires $1 billion to start. You can actually start from wherever you are. The most important thing is your passion, your hunger for knowledge, and your interest in the demand, not just what you feel is the demand. And that's the story. One major learning we have picked from Mr. Umar's story. The training was initially slated for 28, which is tomorrow, which is a virtual version. 29th and 30th is a master class, physical master class in Nigeria. However, due to some situation beyond our control, it has been postponed to a later date in July, still in commemoration of the International Day, MSME Day. The initial investment, let's put it that way, usually for that particular training is $1,000. However, in commemoration of the International MSME Day, the organizers of the masterclass, that's the Women's School of Business and Leadership, had taken on 90%, and they are giving a 90% discount. So they are charging only $100, which is payable. So if you are interested, please kindly fill the form. There are three cohorts: the oil and gas cohort, the energy and power cohort that speaks to renewables, solar, and all the different energy, renewable energies, energy transition, and power. Like we had Mr. James Nomeli told us about the billing system they just started in Kenya. And then the third cohort speaks to the solid minerals and the critical minerals. If you have been checking the news and been listening to the international news, the CNN, there is a huge and very high demand for critical minerals, solid minerals in the Western world. And Africa has huge deposits of all these minerals. So how do you start as a MSME? Like we said, we want to demystify the myth that you need billions to be able to start. So that is going to be the third cohort of that training. So please, if you are interested, kindly just indicate in the chat, put your email and your phone number, and we will get back to you. Again, there is a 90% discount. The minimum cost usually is $1,000, but we are doing just $100 in commemoration of the International Day for MSME. It's been an interesting day. It's been fantastic. Many thanks to our distinguished speakers from across Africa. We had speakers from Rwanda, we had Kenya, we had Angola, we had Senegal, we had Uganda, Nigeria, South Africa, United Kingdom, United States, all speaking in one voice on how we can take MSME to the next level. Because without MSMEs, the different nations, African nations, may not be able to scale. Thank you very much. If anybody have any comments, any question, any remarks, please feel free, because we have come to the final end of today's Congress. It's been an amazing time since 10 a.m. and we have been able to maintain the tempo. Thank you to both the participants and all the speakers. At this point, we will go into the e-networking session. Please feel free to network on the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and talk. Say happy Global MSME Day to everyone. Please feel free to unmute, put on your video. Let's take some pictures and let us wish ourselves happy MSME Day. Once again, this whole program was brought to us by a school, an academic school called Women's School of Business and Leadership, and in collaboration with my own organization where I sit as the CEO, Black Gold Energy Authorities. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Women's School of Business and Leadership team for accepting to start this Congress with my industry, that is the energy and extractive industry. Thank you very much, everyone, and let's have a short networking time before we finally call it a day. Thank you. Please feel free, comment, reference, feel free. We are now in networking. We are done.
I will just quickly say something. I just wanted to thank everyone for participating to this event. I think that we had some great quality speakers. It's been amazing to have some of those insights, especially regarding the funding. I think it was extremely insightful. I wish we had more time. And perhaps, Doctor, that would be something that we could think about for another session, maybe make that over the course of 2 days, because there is so much that remains untold about local content, about regulation, about how we can actually build ecosystems that are going to be useful for local companies to empower the youth and so on. So I think it's just the beginning for probably something to continue later on, and let's keep this alive and meet again over Teams or Zoom or physically, who knows, one day for a physical Congress somewhere. Thank you again, everyone.
Yeah, we actually
absolute
We
pleasure.
met in Senegal. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Miguel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's been really, really inspiring. Your session was really inspiring. And like you rightly said, I could actually put that question through to the WSBL team if they can consider making the training hybrid, because it was initially meant to be 100% physical. But if they can make it hybrid, why not? If not, if people want to join from other countries, it will be more interesting, and we can even have more facilitators and speakers from across the different countries in Africa. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing time. Thank you. Yeah, please, more of our speakers, feel free to unmute and talk.
Hello. This is Chief Dr. Anita Nana Okuribido, and I'm so proud of you, Dr. Duni. This is a great microfinance and micro MSMEs Congress, and defining the future of MSMEs through the lens of energy transition is very key. I listened to the speaker, the wonderful speaker. The future of micro, small, and medium enterprises lies at the intersection of innovation, sustainability, and access to clean energy. There's no way you can do MSMEs without activating the mandate of Sustainable Development Goal 7. As the world shifts toward the global energy transition, the movement from fossil fuel dependence to cleaner and renewable energy systems, MSMEs will become one of the strongest drivers of economic transformation for job creation and inclusive development, which you have really discussed at length in this Congress. So for me, the definition of the future of MSMEs through the lens of energy transition is where businesses evolve from being passive consumers of energy to becoming active participants in a very sustainable green economy. So let us leverage increasingly on renewable energy technologies such as solar power, battery storage, clean cooking solutions, and energy efficient production systems to reduce operational costs, to improve productivity, and build resilience against unreliable traditional energy systems, while we actually think of net zero and mitigate climate change. I would want us to have more of these congresses so that we can increase the earning power of individuals, particularly women in MSMEs. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you very much. You just wrapped it all up for us. Thank you very much, Chief Mrs. Nana Okoribido. We appreciate that contribution. Any more contribution, please feel free. Feel free to unmute and make your contribution. We have just about 5 minutes to go and we'll be shutting down finally, singing Happy World MSME Day.
Congratulations, Dr. Juni.
Okay. In the absence of no more contribution, I think the contribution can continue on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, on the different platform. Please, the lady that was supposed to teach us on AI had to quickly touch on, had to go into another meeting, which is a physical meeting. She actually did share a playbook with us. Let's see if technical can quickly bring that on, and we'll just close with that. But if not, we will send it to everyone that is that registered to attend this program. You will get it in your inboxes. Let's technical, please. Is it possible for us to have the playbook, the AI lady shared with us? Okay. Okay, I'm not sure that is possible for this particular session. But once again, if you are interested in the training, please note that the discount is majorly for in commemoration of the MSCME Day. So that means if you want to access that same training another time, you're going to pay $1,000 or even more. So thank you very much. Once again, if you're interested, please put in your email and phone number. It's happening this July. It was initially meant to start tomorrow through to Tuesday. It's physical training in collaboration with Black Gold Energy Authorities, happening at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The new date will be communicated shortly, and we wish you all a happy weekend. Thank you, and God bless. Okay, thank you. We have come to the end of the program. Please, you can exit
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
Hi, this Mansoura
Thank
Taiwo
you, everyone.
from LCCI Women Group.
Thank
So
you,
I'm interested in
LCCI.
the training.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ma. I think LCCI is hosting us, LCCI VI. So
Okay.
we will continue.
Hello, Ma. Hello, Dr. Doni. You have forgotten me in Oyota, no?
Okay, please let's put in
Hello,
all our
Doctor.
information on the chat box. This is an African Congress, so we have a lot of representation from across Africa as well.
Hello, Dr. Doni.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good